Yeah, I haven't actually done it either.
Hello, everyone. It's Hotline League episode 106. If you heard Mark talking just now, it's because he's just so enthusiastic to get in the show that he can't stop himself. He's pumped. Look at the enthusiasm on that face. Yikes. Anyway, uh, so excited to be here. I just flew in this morning back from the Gaffies. That was great. Had a great time there. Hope you all caught it. If you didn't, catch it over on YouTube. It'll be up Tuesday morning, or you can also watch the Twitch VOD if you want to see the Twitch chat. We had a great time doing it, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Mark, did you enjoy it?
Am I back?
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, the Gaffies were fun. I liked watching with people. Commercials were good. A lot of the little gimmicks were funny.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, I've been happy to do that. Anyway, Mark, how you been?
Good.
Anything else happen? You moved. Wait, you did that last.
Yeah, we were here last week too.
Okay. Well, anything else interesting happened for you?
My cat just walked back.
That's hype. Anyway, I've just want to shout out Alienware at the start of the show. We'll be talking about them more later. And halfway through the show, we're going to be joined by EG's Director of League Operations, Greg Kim, at the Kim Dynasty as his handle. He used to work at Riot as an insights lead on the esports team. And there's Mark's cat, so as always, it'll be great.
We're good to go.
Yeah. Until eventually the cat starts clawing Mark and then he gets rid of it. And it's been a quiet week. Other than the Gaffies, not much has happened. Especially if you look at Reddit, the only thing you're going to see are gameplay clips. But, I guess Set came out, maybe? Did that happen last week?
Set came out. We've done a good job of holding off on split predictions.
Yeah.
So I think we will have a lot of like specific takes. So
yeah, I think so. In the past, we've talked a little sort of broadly about the league this year and what we're hoping to do, or to see rather. And now I think it's ready to just dive in on predictions for the teams, maybe the first week of games. I mean, that's obviously happening this weekend, so it's a big week here. And can't wait to get into all that. And then, so maybe we'll do 2 waves of calls. The first couple, over the next 45 minutes or so, will just be about the split in general. And then happy to have Greg on in the second half, and people can call in specifically about EG and anything they want to talk about. So,
yeah, I think to give a little direction to viewers, I would like to, as best we can, do around 1 call for each team. And I know we've already talked about some of these teams a little bit more, teams like TL and stuff and TSM, but I don't know, like, have we talked much about like a FlyQuest or Dig, or where, we think they're going to finish, or even Immortals maybe? So
not at all, yeah.
I think some specific split predictions from fans for specific teams would be good.
Well, let's you and I dive in while the questions start coming. Because by the way, if it's the first time watching the show, go ahead and put it in the subtopics or pleb topics channel. You can do !Discord in the chat to get the link. Anyway,
I'm also spamming it right now.
All right, as always. And you always spam. It's discord.gg/Travis, but you always just spam.
I get the random invite link, dude.
Anyway, so before we get into the calls. I don't know if I want to completely rank the teams yet, because that would, I think, take 30 minutes maybe for each of us. But do you have any predictions around top 3, bottom 3?
Fairly confident on TL in the top 3. I'd probably put C9 in there, while the latest iteration has some bigger question marks than they've had in recent years. I do think they have shown time and time again that they deserve the credit. Maybe not in the regular season will they 100% be gelling, but usually they're good to go. The third one is a toss-up to me between like maybe EG, maybe TSM, something like that. Maybe CLG, but I'm not a huge CLG fan.
It's interesting that you don't just rank TSM automatically in that top 3, because I feel like so many other people, like I was at Acid Day this weekend, and other than when teams were predicting themselves to be in the top 3, it seems like everybody's like, all right, TL, C9, TSM. And even that last call last week, I feel like we had somebody predict that, and we kind of generally agreed with it, right?
Well, right. I was saying on paper they have a lot of skill, but they could flop. The Dardoch experiment, I think, is what we were referring it to.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, it was like, what did I say? EG, TSM, said one other team. But like those are the candidates for the third spot. If I had to pick one, I probably would pick TSM.
Holy crap. Ollie just rated us with 1,000 viewers. Hello, everyone. If Ovely
She
wants to
said
call in,
Ovely.
if Ovely wants
Yeah,
to
I think
call in, she can. She's welcome
she just
to.
needs to join the Discord.
Yeah. Happy to have her show up.
It's warm in here. I got to take this hoodie off. I'm
No, I
dying
just did
already.
that too. I had a hoodie on. It is warm. I don't know what's going on in LA.
It's so warm in your room.
Yeah.
Where I am in as well.
Yes. By the way, now we don't see the cat or you, so if you could pick one or the other, that would be great.
All right. I mean, he kind of just. I'm not petting him. He's just like, fuck it, and he laid down.
Okay.
All right. I'm still waiting for topics to come in. I don't give a fuck about Dig Academy
So
roster.
let's
right
also
now,
talk
guys.
bottom three. Who do you think will be bottom three?
I mean, that's another thing that people can predict. Here we go. Someone said something.
I mean, I thought maybe we'd share our takes before we get somebody.
No. I need to take my hoodie off, which means I got to take my headset off. So you got to fill.
Well, I'm super excited for the season to start. I've been waiting for this for quite some time. Curious how the Monday schedule is going to work out. The first match of the week is Cloud9 versus TL, which was the finals for last year. That's generally how those things go. And I'm excited to see what it looks like. Then we also have CLG Dig. That'll be fascinating. 100 Thieves, Golden Guardians, and Immortals. FlyQuest. It's going to be interesting to only be covering 4 games a week for LCS because Academy is, and then they're moving 2 of them to Monday. So that'll be fascinating. And then on Monday night, I guess we got EG 100 Thieves and Team Liquid TSM as our Monday night game. So I'm excited to see that. Welcome back, Mark.
No, I was with you the whole time.
Interesting.
Also, people stop trying to talk about 4 teams at once. I don't care about your bottom 4 ranking. Pick one.
Do you?
Like I said, I want to get.
Do you have enough calls? Do you think to start taking people?
Yeah, we can definitely start.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and do that? I will read off some subs to the channel. Thank you to, and every time I open up Streamlabs now, it makes me reauthorize itself. What's going on? What's going on there, Streamlabs? Why don't you just remember who I am? Thank you, by the way, to Ovely for rating with 1,000 people. That's awesome. We almost have like more viewers than we did with the Gaffies last night, which is terrible for the Gaffies, but great for this show. Ozdu, thank you for the 8 months. Super Person, Orlando Jones, Mama's Cupcakes hit 1 year. Tanuki Suit, Terminal, Ryan DB, LOL Globus, and Techno Weeb. One month short of 2 years. We're joined right now by L Super Person. L Super Person, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Davis, California. What's up?
Davis, California. Have you been on the show previously?
No, never.
Okay.
Am I too quiet or too loud, by the way?
No, you're perfect. Thank you. I think we had a person from Davis before. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. What did you want to talk about on the show tonight?
Yeah, so what I'm going to talk about is, it is a big hot take, but the more I think about it, the more I lean into it, even though, who knows. But yeah, I think the TSM roster is going to flop, at least, relative to expectations. They're not going to get like, 7th or 8th or whatever, but I think they might, they're probably going to be more like 4th through 6th, rather than like 1st through 3rd, which many other people are predicting.
I don't think 4th is a flop compared to expectations, because if it's like one out of, if people are sort of saying they're not the strongest of the top 3, landing 4th won't be. But if they're they're truly middle of the pack with 5th or 6th, then I think that would be a flop.
I think 4th through 6th is a flop. I think, unless it's like a super, super close kind of thing towards the end of the season where like you took the champions to 5th game or something in semis, and then I don't know. But I think that they should have top 3 aspirations for sure.
I mean, I'm sure they do. I just, being one out of the zone, I feel like
I should say expectations instead of aspirations. Then they should expect to get top 3, and I think fans should expect that out of this team too.
I guess you could argue 4th is like, maybe like 4th isn't flop, but it's just outside of the, like, you want at least 3rd if you're TSM, and Spring you probably want at least 3rd, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But Mark, you weren't even able to predict it in your top 3 for sure.
I was debating it because I haven't made my list yet. I think the weird thing about them is, on paper, they definitely have, I think, a top 3 roster, right? Broken Blade, depending on his peak, maybe is one of the most volatile, but actually Bjergsen, Kobe, Biofrost are all relatively stable and good players. Their actual like performance doesn't fluctuate too much. And then Dardoch is someone who is usually really good, and the problems that arise from him are almost not really in game. It's usually like out of game problems manifesting in game, if anything, right? So on paper, who's better than them? Team Liquid, and then I don't know. Does anyone jump out? Maybe EG, but that's a big question mark with Kumo.
With Kumo and Jizuke, I feel like a lot of people are unsure about Jizuke.
Yeah, Bang hadn't been great in his last split. He did do a little bit better when they made the changes, but that's a roster that I think has more question marks in my mind. I think C9 is probably the other one that people are betting on to do well. And so I think TSM should expect to be top 3. There's not that many teams that are talent-wise better than them.
Yeah, for EG, except for jungle, there's an argument that everyone in those roles is potentially a question mark, right? But with TSM, of course, that roster's, I guess top lane is in terms of likelihood to perform well, that's the biggest question mark, and then Dardoch is Dardoch. But yeah, on paper, it's super strong. It's a super strong roster. It's just my reason for it is in my opinion, to argue this, it can't just be oh yeah, Dardoch, this could just be fucking boom. You can't just say that on its own. There needs to be a reason for it. And even, I don't know, it's probably not that big, but one thing I noticed with the TSM roster is their coach Peter Zhang, that guy has a reputation for kind of, I don't know, basically being loco dope. He talks too much is what some people say. He needs to, sometimes learn to shut up, and he's a personable guy, but sometimes there's mixed reception to his coaching. He seems really intelligent at the game. If I wanted an analyst or a strategic coach, he would be a guy that I'd want. But to be a head coach, I'm not 100% sold on that. And that kind of head coach coaching Dardoch, and we literally saw how he was coached by Loco Doka. I'm not saying it's gonna be literally fucking breaking point, but I'm just going back off of some of the memories, and if we're hoping for Dardoch to do well, then the hopes aren't that good with Peter Zhang, and of course I think.
It's just a comment on the coach point. I think if you want to have a question mark about Peter, that's fine. The Loco Doco comparison is pretty crazy.
I think so. What's funny to me was that felt like a great way for the caller just insult Loco. It's he's I not only am I going after Peter, well, we're just gonna slam in Loco Doco here and give this list of faults. What did you mean by the Loco Doco comparison is pretty crazy, Mark?
I think they're very different people. And Peter's changed a lot since I worked with him, right? So some of what I'm basing Peter's coaching experience off of is my time with him, but also what I've seen since TSM Academy. During my time with him, he like you're saying, he was smart about the game. He had a way that he wanted to play, and he was good about getting player buy-in about it. I would say for the most part, he made a really big mistake with some of the Korean players and kind of lost some respect with them during my time with him. But I think that was his first time, I think, working with Korean players, and I think he's grown a lot since then. So I think he'll be fine. And they've had a lot of experience with him, so I don't think that they would promote him up into this position because he's been with their academy team for 2 years. If they didn't, so a lot of players I know respect Peter a lot and like working with him, and say he does a really good job teaching him the concepts that they need to do what he wants them to do. So I think, most players are pretty on board with him. I don't know who's been saying what. I know he has had some haters in the past, but the Loco Doco stuff was more just really immature problems that people were having with him. And like you said, he talked too long. He had really, really long post-game sessions, but I don't think that was really a problem with Peter, at least not while I worked with him. Sometimes we did, but everyone did. So I think, you can have your question marks given Peter's up and down coaching career. But I think the Loco Doco comparison is bad. That's all.
Oh yeah, okay, fair. I even as even thinking of that, it was just kind of a vague, I don't know, I can see the connections, but you moved me actually on the Peter Zhang thing. If you're with your experience in the league and your position as well, coaching, like those are some pretty fair points. And but I mean, I guess he's still a question mark for me. But then I guess just not as much. Maybe I move. Maybe I move TSM up one spot. Maybe I'm saying third to fifth now. Thanks.
I
to
mean,
what you said,
the Peter
boy.
thing was interesting to me because I remember he got coach of the split, and then immediately after he got coach of the split, everyone, he lost his job, I think, and then a bunch of people came out and they were like, "Oh, that's hilarious! He got coach of the split. He definitely didn't deserve that." There was this kind of weird backlash.
Oh, yeah, he got coach of the fucking. Oh yeah, I didn't even remember that. He did get coach of the split.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Yeah, the 2015 split is when he got a lot of shit because he won coach of the split, and then wasn't on Team Liquid the next year, and everyone kind of flamed him for that. But then he kind of reproved himself through the TSM Academy situation. So that's why I think I understand why people might have a bad taste of Peter because of what happened. But I think it's that was 5 years ago at the point. So I think he's grown enough that the things that happened then shouldn't be a problem.
I mean, there were also rumors about it's unclear too if Peter was going to be their first decision because there were rumors that they were going after different coaches, and they were pretty late in announcing Peter as their coach. So it kind of paints the image that maybe they didn't get the coaches that they want, and Peter ended up being that person.
Yeah, it's hard to know. But I mean, like, who knows? I think this team has problems. I don't think it's from Peter, but who knows? Because we've said the same thing before with Song when it was like, oh well, Song was so good with Immortals, what a great pickup, and then if you hear some of the people talk about how unstructured that roster was and how many problems they had on an organizational level.
Well,
all right, okay, that's fair. I guess like most of what I've talked about is with just Dardoch and a little bit of Broken Blade, and of course Peter Zhang. I mean, personally, I think that the bot lane, it should be fine. I mean, no one's expecting Biofrost Kabe to like smash, but like they'll do well, and probably in Kabe fashion do well in like the mid to late especially. And then not many people are. I don't think anyone's expecting Bjergsen to do particularly. That they're expecting a bounce back. So yeah, I'm not looking to that as anything close to a question mark.
Yeah, I think for me, if you look at spring 2019, when the team was doing well in their win streak, that was a team that should be similar to what this team does, with a less aggressive bot lane when they had Sven, and hopefully Kabe is not needing a lot of resources in the early game, so Dardoch can go snowball Broken Blade and Bjergsen can help that out, or maybe they work around mid jungle. Either way, more top half of the map play that then becomes a solid in the mid to late game. In paper, that should be a good game plan that works for this roster, and one that we already saw kind of work in spring last year with hopefully Dardoch being an upgrade over Acadian. I think the volatility of if something goes wrong, it goes really wrong. So in that sense, it's almost weird to put them fourth or fifth. It's almost more of a boom or bust team than that, I would think, but I think it's too talented to really bust to totally into like seventh or something,
So like the range is like first through second or fifth to sixth. There's not a third to fourth. Yeah, that's fair. Actually, that's completely fair.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel like TSM will be one of the most interesting teams to look at this year because obviously there's so much pressure, and after 2 years of not making it, it'll be fascinating. Now they got Biofrost back, who was on that leg, like the super team, not super teams, the incredibly strong team for multiple years. And Dardoch is always one of the most captivating individuals in the league, so I'm pretty excited about it for sure. Either way, El Super Person, anything you want to say as we move on to the next caller?
No, that's it. I just wanted to get that hot take out there.
Thank you. Yeah,
peace.
Have a good one. You want to grab our next person, Mark? It's very interesting. I know that we've had weird sync issues with Mark's cam and the audio delay, and every time the show starts, it's a different level of delay. So I don't know what causes that, but Patty, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
Brisbane, Australia.
Welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I think Dignitas will finish the split coming 10th in spring for sure, and I think TL will definitely win summer, but just not sure about spring because of the visa stuff.
So Dig, you said in spring Dig comes in 10th?
Yeah, well, obviously we can't tell between spring and
Sure.
summer because there could be changes and whatnot that
Okay.
could fix it. But I think spring 10th.
So, and what is their starting lineup? It's Aframu, Froggen, Hooney,
Greg and Johnson.
That's Johnson. Sorry, it's interesting when you look at the Riot pages for the players. They just loop all the academy and LCS players in. I don't know if maybe that means Dig's planning on doing a 10-man roster, and that's why they're just all sitting there. But yeah,
Yeah, I think maybe until week 1 starts and they can confirm, but because the names are all over the spot for me as well. Every time you try and look it up.
Well, anyway, I feel like it's a bold take. They got a lot of good players on there, right? Like I know people meme Hooney, for instance, but he's had great performances, and I know that Mark hates Froggen, but a lot of people like him, like Thorn. So and Johnson seems highly regarded. I don't know. I look at this roster and it's hard to feel like it's 10th place. People are usually giving that to some other rosters. What makes you think this is a 10th place team?
It's just I'm comparing them because just like my predicted bottom 4, I had like Dignitas, FlyQuest, Immortals, Golden Guardians, most likely. I'm still not sure about the middle stuff, but I think lane for lane, like, you don't know which Hooney's going to rock up. I think Afro was part of the problem on 100 Thieves. He was kind of running it down in 3/4 of their games. Froggen, I think, gets outclassed by most other mids in NA. Greg, we're not sure what the problem was on TSM, whether he was the problem or whether TSM's higher up. I think there's too many question marks for things that have the potential to go wrong over some of the other teams we're looking at.
I have a question.
Like, let's compare them to like FlyQuest, for example. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I have a question for Mark. Mark, do you think that their new roster is stronger or weaker than last year's roster?
I'm gonna lean towards weaker, but not necessarily on paper. I think last year they did a really good job over the course of summer and into playoffs and Gauntlet of finding something that they did really, really well, which was skirmish around Rift Herald, and they were really on top of their timing for it, and they could exploit people who were not as prepared. They had unique picks that they were really good on, so they forced you to do certain things in pick ban to react to them. And they had a play style that worked well for them, even though I wouldn't say Lyra was great or Demonte was great or, some of those things. I think Vulcan was really good. I think Cooney, for the most part, was really good when things went well for him, but when things went bad, they went really bad. And Demonte was a really good team player and stuff. So, like, when I look at this roster, I'm like, Froggen individually better than Demonte. Johnson, Cody, I think that's a downgrade. Afro for Vulcan, maybe a little bit of a side grade. Grig for Lyra, probably similar to Hooney. I think Lyra was a little bit of a boomer
I'm
bust
surprised
player.
to hear you say Afro is a side grade. I feel like Afro took a ton of heat last year for his performance, and I feel like people were just applauding Vulcan nonstop. Like, I felt like his move to C9 was
I think Vulcan. It depends what you want out of the player. And actually, you know what? Now that you say it, I think Afro probably is a downgrade because this is not a roster that needs another kind of like presence, so to speak, between Froggen and Hooney. I don't think they need another person to bring any opinions. So maybe I think you're right. This is probably a downgrade.
And that's what's so fascinating to me about this roster is I don't know how you go to Worlds. I think it's not like these players left because their contracts were up, from my understanding. Maybe Cody's was. I think Cody's was. So maybe that's what happened there. But I don't know. It just feels like they made conscious decisions that led to a on paper weaker team. And that's what's been fascinating to me about the Dig roster. And I don't think we've talked about it on the show before, but I'm just kind of like, why did this happen?
Papa said in chat, Cody's was not up, so I assume that means that he had to.
He was
work with Dignitas to care to them.
Then that's even crazier, right? Like,
well, that was what the whole joke was for a little bit was that like Hooney's contract was so ridiculous that they had to sell Vulcans to make money for this to work, you know? I don't know why they did it. I would assume that, you know, Hooney was the star and he wanted things different. That's the only thing I can guess,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, that's the general assumption everybody makes. I asked him in the interview that I think went up yesterday if he was involved in some of the decisions, and he kind of was like, it seemed kind of 50-50, where like they were talking to him, but it didn't seem like he wasn't like, these are the 4 players I wanted to play with going into this split, right? It's not like he was like,
wow, that's because there's no way it would be.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to see. It would have been really fascinating to know what went on behind the scenes at Dig during this offseason, because it doesn't feel like things went optimally for them. And maybe they think.
Yeah, I think. I mean, so. Sorry, you go.
Ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say I am of the opinion that like we were talking about a lot about on paper, but I think playstyle is the most important thing to talk about when comparing old Dig to new one. Where like Lear was super down to he had the highest jungle proximity in the league, so he just like followed, you know, wherever his laners wanted him to be. And I think Grig can kind of do that, but I don't think he's as willing to just like int under turrets the way I think Lyra and Hooney would just sometimes, you know, go for broke. And I think Grig's confidence and his ability to pull the trigger and like start the fight or whatever is sometimes not great. And that was one of the things that led to Acadian re-earning the starting spot over him, was Acadian having a good game at Rift Rivals and Grig kind of floundering. So, you know, I don't think they'll be able to recapture like the super strong top camp that Lyra set up. I don't think Froggen wants to move around the map like Demonte did, who was often not getting lane pressure before like doing the things that he wanted to do. And maybe Johnson can be Cody, but he doesn't have another like set. Like Cody's so good about, I don't know if it's him or who, like what it is, but he's really good about getting fed in the laning phase without him making crazy plays. So like when he played with Afro and Meteos, they fed him a lot. And then it happened again with Vulcan being a really good player to make plays and set him up for kills. And so maybe Afro can do that again and help find kills. But, you know, I don't see the spot lane working the same way as Cody Vulcan.
Okay, but this is a 10th place team, to our caller's point.
I don't think so.
Because I mean, and I guess that implies we have to stick somebody else there, right? So who would you pick? Golden Guardians?
I think I mean like Golden Guardians for me feels like a pretty easy pick.
Yeah. What about Immortals?
I'm pretty sus on them. It's like weird. I'm most confident in like their fill positions, you know, like jungle and support, like their support positions and stuff. I just don't think, I was talking about this with Jat on a podcast that hasn't come out yet. I don't know what like who is their playmaker, who's the one, you know. We were kind of using basketball terms and things like that, or other sports terms, like who's the one, who's the two, you know, who's the carry, who's the off carry, right. You know, these kinds of things. Like Altec's always been a cleanup at his best, unless he's suddenly going to become a monster. So as always jokes about dog champs, and he's a pretty much even laner who mostly plays bruisers and tanks in team situations. And then Ica was the best, arguably, depending on how you want to, what angle you want to take in the LFL, the French league. But he's been around forever. No one's sprung on him in Europe before, so I have a hard time believing that he's about to take over NA's mid lane position. So I'm like, who is the guy?
Yeah. No, it does feel to me that it's such a toss-up between Dig, Immortals, and Golden Guardians for last place, which is not a great situation to be in. I feel like there's more... I see more potential upside in GG than I do in IMT, and I'm trying to decide if I see more potential upside in GG than I do in Dig. It's like, Hanser... pretty good. Like the key thing just skews that fucking roster so hard into the dirt. Like that's the problem.
I mean, it also required a pretty optimistic take to begin with. Like FBI, we saw some good plays, some bad plays. You're like, all right, he's going to be all upside. Golden Glue is someone who hasn't worked down the LCS, had some good showings at times during his sub days on C9. You assume they're going to be the Golden Glue that you get. Then you have to assume Closer is actually good.
Yeah.
And then you also have to assume Keith works out support. There's so many assumptions to make this team like even a middle of the pack team, you know?
Yeah.
It just feels like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, maybe I'd go IMT, Golden Guardians, Dig from the bottom up.
Really? You think IMT is going to be worse?
I just like the IMT thing is so weird to me. Like,
but they at least have close to best.
They have Xmithy, don't
yeah, they have Xmithy, but
last place.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They at least have 2 close to best in slot players. You know, Smithy's a top 3 jungler in North America for the most part. Hakuho is a top 3, top 4 support.
So
for the most part.
I worry about Jake.
Like Golden Guardian's best player is Hansard.
I worry
right?
about Jake in an environment where they're not going to be top, like a top team. Because I actually feel like Jake is the type of player, like Smithy is the type of player that plays to the level of the people that are around him, and I mean that also just because of kind of his personality. Like, he's the type of person where I feel like if the team starts sucking, I could see him just checking out. And
yeah, but I also don't think that this is a team that's going to have like any personality problems. I think because Jake seems really easygoing, Hakuho seems really easygoing.
So is the only one that's kind of spicy. I guess we don't know much about Ica.
I don't know enough about Ica. Yeah.
So,
but like, I just don't see Immortals. I agree their top end is really, really, really low, but I don't think they're a huge variance team.
So the very fascinating thing to me about Dig, and the thing that might help them stay out of last.
We're talking about every team now.
No, I know, but I'm trying to bring it back. Well, we had to talk about what are the other teams that could take that 10th place spot, right? It makes sense that we're looking at Golden Guardians and Immortals, but with Dig, the thing that fascinates me is that they have just a ton of like veterans and imports on their academy team. And I actually feel like part of that, they've like kind of pulled backups for some of these other players. So I could kind of see a world where like, if they're not doing well by week 4, you start to see maybe Acadian subbing for Grig, because this is like the TSM life that was lived last year, right? Or you see Ole come in, like there's a couple different things that could happen. So instead of Aftermove, like for some reason it's not working. So I think that actually gives Dig more upside because they have more potential backups and potentially have planned it that way, right?
Yeah, but that's more of like a summer thing than a spring. I feel like you rarely see like a lot of roster shifting.
Well, other than the fact that now spring doesn't give you points, so there's the chance for you to do more experimentation in spring so that you're better set up for summer.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying though, is like if things aren't working out in spring, you start swapping players around, like I mean, I guess if you're saying they won't be 10th, right? Yeah. I guess that's what you're saying.
I'm saying if things are looking bad, if it's like Froggen fucking hates everyone or something, then it's like, okay, pull in DeMonte, or whatever. Although I guess the rumor was that Huni and DeMonte, like Huni didn't want to play with DeMonte or something. I don't know. So I don't know, but
I think I see what you're saying. I don't think Dignitas 10th. I'm on board with that.
I'm willing to say not Dignitas 10th as well. So I guess we disagree with you, Patty. I'm sorry. Do you have any defense for why they're going to be worse than we think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it just has such a high probability to explode. So I guess we'll just see how it plays out. Like Uni could end up popping off, and Froggen could end up popping off, and then become a playoff team. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's several rosters. I think maybe it's always this way, and it's easier to look back and be like, well, of course that roster wasn't going to work. But there's several rosters this year where I just have no idea how to place them. I mean, I'm pretty confident in saying that I don't think Dig is going to be top 3 like they were last year, but I am not confident in saying that they're going to be bad. It's the same way with like the EG roster, and there's at least one other roster. Oh, maybe the 100 Thieves roster, where I'm just like, this is really hard to place. I'm actually really excited for your rankings, Mark, because I feel like it's going to be incredibly difficult to say like, oh yes, the EG roster or the 100 Thieves roster. Like, which one of these is the place to put this?
Yeah, and for the last couple of years, I've started by looking back at the previous year's power rankings. And I remember I was one of the only people to put Clutch at 10th or whatever I did, and they ended up getting 9th or 10th
in spring
before being really good. Yeah, so I feel like I feel like I'm the best person ever at predicting power ranking. That's where I was going with that.
Clutch. What you were correctly ranked clutch, but what you didn't rank was dig, because that's when things changed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Anyway, thanks so much for calling our friend Patty. You can brag to your friends if they get 10th place at the end of spring. But anything you want to say at the end here?
Yeah, call back in a few months and look like a genius or an idiot.
Anything you want to say here at the end of the call?
Shout out to my OS boys in the league. Shout out Puff Smithy. Shout out Alienware.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
By the way, hey, one question for you: do you want to watch LCS more because there's Oceanic players in it? Is that like a thing that gets you excited?
I want to see how they go. Like because normally the games start at like 6 o'clock in the morning here, so it's turns out pretty well. So I can just chuck it on and do other stuff at the same time. But yeah, I'm excited to see how they go. I'm excited for the 100 Thieves roster. And then obviously the Academy games will be harder to watch, but I'll definitely watch a couple. I rate King, I rate Triple. I think they'll be really good.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, see you guys.
I want this cold to go away.
One more? One more? Uno más? Dos más?
Thank you to Terminal, Ryan DB, LOL Globus, Techno Weeb, Reticius1, I always fuck this up, Deletix, Sadistic Nero, Carouse 44, Matt Gunnan, Ovly for the 1,000-person raid, that's awesome. Slappa Debase, John G 365, Lunapome, I just did it, man. Stickman Alv, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the River Valley in Arkansas.
Nice. What is the river? You said River Valley? What
yes.
is that? What's that place like? What is that? Describe it to me.
There are almost mountains around and a lake.
Dick.
Why isn't it called Lake Valley?
Or not a lake, river. Words are hard.
Oh, okay. I thought I was lied to for a moment.
Learn a lot about Alabama people right now. What do you want to talk about on the show?
FlyQuest is going to be the 10th team.
Oh, okay. Now we've got a different take on 10th place spots. Our callers are always so positive, It's not like this team's going to be first, this team's going to be first. It's just like
we got a couple other positive ones.
The race to the race to the bottom here on the show. All right.
Okay.
So Stickman, take me through this. Why is FlyQuest going to be 10th?
Because I feel like they're relying on Wild Turtle to hard win lane with Ignar and then carry that throughout the rest of the game. And Wild Turtle was one of the worst AD carries in the summer, and I don't feel like he's going to be as good as they need him to be.
I mean, why do you think they have to rely on Wild Turtle? I feel like, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but people are pretty up on Viper, and PoE is always kind of considered solid but not great.
This is another team that's kind of like Immortals to me, where I definitely am not excited, but I don't think they'll be turbo bad. I don't know what happened in spring or in summer, where everything fell apart. Well, actually, as I'm thinking about it, because you're getting the same. Obviously, Pobelter had a really rough early part to the split. He was, I think he even tweeted about it. He played pretty bad, and he died a lot in a lot laning phase and things like that made it harder, but he at least was pretty active, all things considered, especially as the season went on, about trying to make plays and stuff. Santorin was invisible to a lot of people. His jungle proximity wasn't as bad as it ended up feeling, but
that's right. Santorin had a really good spring where people were all really hype on him, and then just sort of flopped in the summer, right? And I think
he was the only one in spring to make an all-pro team that wasn't from the top three teams.
And then things went weird. And I feel like a lot of people blame the meta shift, right? Was that what the storyline was supposed to be there?
Some of that, because there he played a lot of Nocturne in spring, and the farm to 6 and was kind of hurt, and there was a lot of early ganking, and that's what the meta seems like it is right now. So Santorin could have a tough time. Viper is seemingly hit or miss. He's definitely good. You can tell he's good, but he's not great yet. Maybe he'll get there.
Well, to the caller's point, do you feel like they have to rely on Turtle and Ignar to carry this team?
I think a little bit. Not necessarily in terms of mid to late game, because we've seen Viper win games on his Riven, and we've seen PoE win games in the late game. But the thing that I'm scared about is their early game, because PoE is notoriously passive in the laning phase. Low 4%, a lot of scaling champions, and like you just don't have much playmaking in the early game if Santorin can't get it together a little bit more and kind of do it himself. And like Wildtail and Ignar can be playmakers, but they like I'm not super confident on them. So like as I've talked more about it, FlyQuest actually went down in my mind from what I was thinking about on paper. Once I started thinking more about playstyle, I was like, ooh.
Okay, but is there a world they can be the 10th place team? Because we didn't even include them in the considerations for, like, when we were just talking about the 3 teams that maybe were in contention, we didn't even mention FlyQuest.
Yeah, I think they could be, honestly.
Okay, them versus GG, because you placed GG in the 10th place right now.
They were 9th. They were 5-13, and they beat Echo Fox on the last day of the split, right? And you're saying PoE and Ignar upgrades from that, because like here's the thing. I think there is a reality where their bottom end is basically the 10th place team. They still didn't get 10th in spring though, or summer, excuse me, and that was with everything kind of going wrong for them. So maybe their bottom end isn't 10th, right? Yeah, I don't think their bottom end's quite low enough to go all the way down to 10th.
I think part of the reason why they weren't 10th in spring was because of how bad Echo Fox went.
Yeah, I mean that's true too. Is there always going to be a team as bad as Echo Fox? Probably not.
But it does. I mean, looking at
same
this,
time,
part of the problem is I look at this roster and I don't think any of these players are like. Here's the problem. I like Keith a lot as a person. It's like insane that Keith is like going to be a support and that this was their like last minute plan. And you see that video and it just it fills you kind of with dread looking at the GG roster. Looking at the FlyQuest roster, there's no role where I'm like, oh no, like, these are all pretty much mid-level players, right? I wouldn't rank any of these players as the last place in their slot, even if they're kind of like a toss-up. So that's why it's actually kind of difficult for me thinking through it to put these in as a 10th place team. And it doesn't look like...
Yeah, but you would have said that...
Sorry, go ahead.
You would have said that about the summer roster last year with Pobelter, and it was JJ, but they were also bringing in Wadid, It was the same roster with JJ and Pobelter, and you would say... And they got 4th, and you're like, okay, well, there's no one on this roster that's bad.
So let's theorize that if we agree that those players all were kind of okay and they shouldn't have done badly, then my theory would be there was something going on behind the scenes that led the team to not do well, either like a coaching situation or a player situation, which they would have tried to rectify during the break. And so I think that's the other thing. Is like I feel like whatever the mystery problem was during the break, it's unlikely that, or before the break, it's unlikely that it would have continued on. So again, I'm like pretty confident that this is going to be a 10th place team.
Well, they got rid of their coaches. Yeah. That was another thing that happened. But I liked Gabe Invert, so I don't know. I guess what I've decided is that there is a way that this is the 10th place team. Because like to the caller's point, with all like the Mike Young and the Rush stuff, everything that happened with Echo Fox to be the other team competing for 10th place, it still took to the last game of the season for FlyQuest to finish above them. So if it's possible that this team just has no synergy and play style that works well together, and they end up 10th again. But I don't think that would happen. I would bet it's not likely, but I've convinced myself that their bottom end is low enough, I guess. I think I would still bet, if I was a betting man, I would bet on Golden Guardians 10th.
All right. What do you think of all this, Stickman, before we say goodbye to you?
I can kind of understand where you're coming from. Like, Golden Guardians is doing a lot of experimentation, but I think the reason why I'm not putting them in 10th is because I completely expect for them to change things like halfway through the spring and just be like, okay, this isn't working.
I mean, you could say that about any team, right? Wouldn't FlyQuest do the same?
They seem pretty married to the idea of Wild Turtle being their AD carry.
You're just super down on Wild Turtle.
I am.
That's what I'm realizing.
I am super down on Wild Turtle. Like, Viper is okay, but I wouldn't put him in the top half of top laners. He's probably like 6th. And then like if we see Spring Santorin, he can be a top 3 jungler. If we see Summer Santorin, he's a bottom jungler. And like Pyro of Evil, like yes, he can carry, but he usually still has to have teammates that are able to follow through with what he tries to pull off. And like I've seen Ignar do good in a few games, but I know last year he didn't have the greatest year.
Well,
so this looks to me just like a lot of people that didn't have the greatest years and Viper.
Sick man. We're gonna have to see how it goes. But if at the end of the split it's not doing well, then you'll look like a genius. Anything you want to say as we move on to the next caller?
Shout out to Alienware and Mark's Cat and the super secret sponsor of Tidy Cats.
Don't give them any love, all right? They've given us $0. Thanks so much for the call.
Bye.
All right, let's take a quick break before we bring in Greg on the next half of the show to talk about, well, sorry, we're going to bring him on to talk about EG, but right now I want to talk about Alienware. Alienware is awesome. I don't know if I've told you guys about this before. Have you guys ever heard of me? Have I said this on the show before about Alienware? Incredible. Absolutely incredible. This is their M15, and I'm going to be working with them to do some stuff with their Alienware Arena. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to be giving away, and it should be happening soon, a NVIDIA G-Sync monitor on my Twitter. Go check that out. We did one last December, I guess, during All-Stars. So that's pretty swell. And they're going to be doing all sorts of cool stuff throughout this year. They're continuing their sponsorship of the LCS, which is fantastic. Love LCS sponsors. And they just support a whole ton of stuff in the league ecosystem. You know, I run out of, because there's so many great things to say about it. I say them all the time. I feel like I'm just like, you know, this giant long list. And eventually I'm like, wait, I gotta move up to the top of it again. But they just do so much cool shit. And they actually do make it possible for us to do all these things. I know everyone's super distracted by the cat. You know what? They've never, here's one thing I'll tell you. They never have said, hey, that cat's distracting from the commercials too much during the show. Get the cat out of here. And they could. And I would. I would turn off Mark's camera. And they've never done that. So that alone should give you a ton of appreciation.
Smart business.
What? What'd you say?
It's because they're smart business people and they know the cats moves units.
Do cats move units? Right now, looking at this cat, do you guys all want to go buy an Alienware computer? Press 1 in the chat if you want to buy an Alienware computer because of this cat. Oh, the cat's leaving. No, we need to sell the Mark, no one's going to buy anything if the cat's not in the shop. There's the tail. This must be fascinating for the podcast listeners. Alienware.com/Travis. Please check them out. Go over there. Look at their stuff. They got some great stuff. Love Alienware. I've got my whole room is just, they've given us so much cool shit. Anyway, thanks so much to Alienware for the support. We're going to get Greg on now. You just added me on Skype, I believe. Let's figure this out. Mark's favorite, Mark's favorite program.
Wait for my audio just again.
Where is, let me message him and make sure that he's. Oh, he's down on the league channel. Okay. Move to on air. Greg, you can unmute your microphone on Discord. What? Hello?
Is that all right?
Sorry, you sounded really
Does it sound
staticky for a second.
Okay. Is it good now?
You're good. Welcome to the show. I'm going to call you on Skype. Please do me a favor and just immediately mute your Skype microphone. Okay.
Sure thing.
Where are we at? One second, everyone listening. Okay, you should be getting the call. There we go. Okay, I'm going to throw your cam onto the screen. Almost there.
Started getting white noise again. Did you?
Yeah, I think I can fix it though.
Wow, it's pretty bright.
Greg, for some reason your audio quality is not that great. I don't know if it's the internet or something on your end, but
Not that good.
I think.
Give me
It
Yeah,
fluctuates.
for sure.
Like it's sometimes really good, and then sometimes it's like a little staticky.
Let's see. 1 sec. Is that any better?
Yes, that should be good, but who knows if it'll stay that way.
Okay. If it acts up, I'll switch to a different microphone. It should be okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
I think I might have just been. It sounded more like the kind of garbly, distorted stuff that happens whenever it's more the internet connection rather than the microphone or the headset. So I think we're okay. But yeah.
Yeah.
Also, do you have like a very
Camera's
bright white light in front of your face?
I like the monitor, but like it shouldn't be
Can you
that
switch
bad.
to like a
1
darker,
sec.
a darker screen or something? Because you're very,
Are you not on
you're very
dark mode?
ghostly.
I don't know why it's so bright. Give me 1 sec. All right. Is that getting better?
Yeah, I think that's okay. Just don't have your face so close to the monitor. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. I'll back up.
Oh, you're going robot-y again. I don't know what that is. Well, hopefully it works out okay over the course of the show. Well, maybe we should get into this. Okay, so first off, Greg, welcome to the show officially. It's great to have you on. Do you want to tell everyone what you do at EG?
Yeah, so
my God.
I'm LCS director at Evil Geniuses. Is it robot?
Just keep talking. Let's just try. It seems to get better as you keep talking.
Okay, all right. If it doesn't, then I'll switch the mic. But I'm LCS director at Evil Geniuses, which I guess means I'm in charge of our local LA League of Legends operation for EG, since our headquarters are up in Seattle. So I'm essentially overseeing all game staff, like everything LCS related, and just sort of weighing in from the LCS side of the organization. Pretty much overseeing everything in LA. I guess it's the short way of answering that
You're
question.
still very much roboting, and I'm hoping that all the people frantically moving around behind you are working to try to solve the issue. That's my hope. That's what I'm guessing.
I hope so.
I can see someone is watching it in the background.
I'm gonna switch the microphone and see what happens.
I'm excited to find. I don't know if you guys have like a desktop mic, but maybe that would help.
Is that any better?
Now I just hear a ton in the background. Like I hear Nicole laughing.
Oh, I see Artemis. That's not helpful.
Okay.
Hello.
This is. It wouldn't be Hotline League if we didn't have audio issues.
Andrew's looking for no, sir.
He's just trying to fit in.
Have this issue checked.
Are you on a laptop?
I'm on a laptop, but I have like a webcam mic, and I have this headset.
Let's try. Can you hang up on Skype? Because I'm actually thinking that for some reason maybe you just don't have the bandwidth because your video's kind of getting laggy too. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So maybe let's try this. Hang up on Skype and then switch Discord back to the headset, and we'll see if that fixes it.
The better mic. Yeah, we'll try that for a sec. 1 second.
Thanks everyone for hanging in there as we're figuring stuff out. Twitch chat says, "Give us Nicole." Nicole is not our guest for the evening. I apologize for that.
My cat.
Mackie in chat says, "Evil Geniuses 1 megabyte internet facility." I do like that. Oh, Kelby's in the chat.
Is that any better?
Yeah, wait, keep talking, Greg.
All right, I'm talking. I'm hoping this microphone.
It is not working better in the slightest. This is hilarious.
God.
Are you on Wi-Fi?
No, we're in the Ethernet, so that's really
it's really weird because it varies in and out. I would say we should change Discord. You can switch from like a West Coast server to something else, but you're literally 3 miles away from me, so I don't know why that would be a thing.
Yeah. Let me try. So it's a wireless headset. Let me try plugging in and see if that makes a difference.
Yeah, that might be part of it.
Yeah.
How you been, Mark?
Chilling, man. My cat facing the wrong way. Happy.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. You need to get your cat in order. I feel really guilty because I did a series of interviews on Asset Day.
All right. Is that any?
You just have to keep talking. Tell us how you're doing, Kim. What did you do today?
What I do
Also, I
today?
keep calling you Kim because your handle is Kim Dynasty in the
Kim
Discord.
Dynasty. Yeah, that it's awkward when I get emails and people just think I'm a girl
Yeah,
named
I'm
Kim.
renaming
It's kinda
you
funny.
in my Discord to Greg so that I don't, looking at your name, get confused. Yes,
I will say it's been better,
it
though.
sounds better.
Your
So what
microphone's
did you do today, Greg?
Okay, so now it's plugged in, so I think it's
Yeah.
better. I think
Okay,
we're
call
good.
me back on Skype, and we might be good.
Okay. All right. So basically, wireless headsets are not the answer.
Try. Can you call us back on Skype? There we go.
Yep, I'm calling right now.
Awesome. I think we should be good then. Okay, looks great, fantastic. So what did you?
Okay.
I like that it's blurred out in the background. We can't see the Skype auto blurring technology is turned on, so we can't see any of those people that are trying to be ridiculous in the background. So you work as the director of LCS at EG, but what did you do before this? Because I find that quite fascinating.
Travis, I think he need to put his thing on stream. Also, I don't see it. His webcam.
I think we're good now.
I was like, okay, there we go.
Yes.
Are we good? Yeah. So before switching over to EG, I actually worked for the LCS. So I was at Riot doing I guess insights work, which is the business strategy and data analytics wing of Riot Games. So I was essentially taking a look at LCS and just figuring out how to be the best league operationally in the world, more or
Nice.
less.
Do you feel you accomplished that during your tenure there?
I feel like we made good progress. That's
Okay.
for sure. Because it was interesting. I think before I joined Riot, like esports insights was definitely a thing. I think when I joined the team, it was to be like the dedicated LCS insights guy. So it was really cool because it enabled us to like really dedicate a resource to like specifically LCS figuring stuff out. Like I worked on things like flex scheduling, like optimizing like the week in and out schedule for viewership and making sure like you got the right matches at the right time. Stuff like roadshow event strategy, and like even stuff like big ticket items, like thinking about expansion and like regionalization and all those like fun things behind the scenes that I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to comment on, but it is some of the stuff that I worked on.
Well, here,
sure.
maybe to ask you a question that maybe you're not allowed to comment on. Now is working on the team side and coming in from the inside side at Riot. What do you think of the Monday night schedule? Because that seems like something you would have worked on at Riot in terms of thinking about viewership and maybe something that you have an opinion on working on the team side.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. And I think pertinent to us at EG because we're debuting on Monday. Like we have the Sunday Monday shift the opening weekend. I think there are a couple things to it. I think like I really like that the LCS is taking a big bet on like a new like fan ritual, like something you can buy into. Like if you remember back in the day, like football never used to be on Monday nights, and like they created Monday Night Football, and this is similarly creating Monday Night League. So I think like it's a cool way to highlight our product. Not only in a different light to, and I still say we a lot, even though I don't work at Riot anymore, but highlight it to hardcore fans in the same way, and similarly like package it as like a standalone product for someone who wants to get into esports possibly. Granted, the call was made after I left Riot and I was like pulling my hair out during free agency. So I'm curious to hear sort of what the tactic is with Monday Night League. But I think like, nothing ventured, nothing gained for the league. And I think the idea like Academy Rush is a thing this year and like having these new products and these new angles and shaking things up, like that can be nothing but good. And sort of we'll see how it goes and iterate from there. I think what this definitely does show is that the league's willing to experiment for sure.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to find out. We have, I think, Mark, you have 3 or 4 folks in the waiting room. Did we pull anybody yet specifically for EG?
There is one EG caller predicting
something about EG.
Okay,
well, why don't we pull the 3 folks to kind of wrap up our previous conversations from the first half of the show, and then we can start pulling more EG topics after that.
We also have the classic NA content complaints caller. I don't know where you want to slot him
let's
in.
do that one right now, just to get Greg into a very awkward position right out the gate as somebody's complaining about both his former employer and current partner, Riot Games.
Well, he can give his opinion. Whatever.
I'm excited. All right, so while we're waiting for that, a couple more shout outs on stream. to folks who have subbed. Thank you to I Love You Chat for 26 months, Pop Suvich, MacD Shifty for 1 year. It's Momo1, Tom Shu, LL Globus, Weird Dude for gifting us up to Mage Wrecker, and Papa Smithy, Portal on Mars, and then Weird Dude 25. Looks as though we have our next caller here now. GD Nerd, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
Santa Clara, California.
Santa Clara. And I hear you have a gripe, a concern, a complaint.
Yeah, so I'm pretty unhappy with the current state of NA LCS content, hype, and in general just communication from that side. And I'm not 100% sure where the problem is coming from, but I just want to walk through a couple of things that are personal gripes for me.
Yeah, go for it.
So right now, LOL Esports has 3 separate 2020 hype videos for the LEC, 0 for the LCS. I thought we were getting one this afternoon when I saw Avali's video, but then it turned out to be something not directly from the LCS studio. It was her own thing, which was cool and amazing, but why isn't the LCS itself doing that kind of stuff? Secondly, I feel like there's some dysfunctional communication between, I'm not sure whether it's directly the content side, but specifically with Greeley, there's kind of the whole fantasy LCS saga, where first last year he claimed we'd have an update mid-spring split. When people started tweeting him after MSI, he was like, okay, well, we'll give you a real update in a couple of weeks. Then the update he gave in a couple of weeks was, oh, we'll give you an update before the end of summer. End of summer turned into after Worlds. And then after Worlds, it was like, oh, well, we just kind of gave up, like, best of luck with third-party offerings. And I mean, it's more nuanced than that, but it really felt like nobody really was telling us what was going on, and I just kind of felt like, personally, like there was no idea what was going on, and things were falling through. It wasn't communicated very well, and so it was this kind of long, depressing slide into not having Fantasy LCS. Now, Draft Buff is doing a great take on what the old Riot system was. And it's better in some ways, worse in others, but just in general. So I'm not sure whether Greeley's specifically handling all this kind of stuff, whether it's hype and communication and all those
You're
kind
just
of
saying
like
you're
peripheral things to the LCS. Yeah, and I'm not sure whether... like where the breakdown's happening, I guess, whether it's directly on him or he's just tanking the aggro for.
Well, commissioner basically takes the aggro
problems
for everything, and in most cases, stuff ladders up to him, even if it's not his decision. So feel free to throw everything you want at the feet of Greeley, including if you feel a champion is overpowered, or or you don't have Project A yet. That's all. Commissioner Greeley's.
Well, I wasn't sure if he was like really dealing with this or he was dealing with more internal stuff.
Yeah, I think he deals with a lot of these things, and ultimately he's responsible for the quality of the league. So if you're saying things that aren't working out, I think he'd probably be down to take some ownership of that. All right, so first off, definitely agree with you. I think last year I was really disappointed personally with the lack of promotion going into Spring Split, and I remember at the time Chopper, who is no longer running things over on the North American esports side, had said that they were trying to get out of the way of LEC, but it seems like we're still trying to get out of the way of LEC because LEC has released 2 really high quality videos and maybe a third as well.
Yeah.
And
yeah, LEC has been killing it. I went back and looked, and the last time I was actually hyped for an LCS like split hype video was 2017 summer with the Run the Jewels trophy.
They had a pretty good one.
Remember
their campaigns for, I think, summer finals, I want to say, were really good. But
with Double It first beer.
Yeah, well, that and no, I think that was spring, right?
No.
Summer was the one where
spring,
they had like the crazy smoke machine stuff or smoke canisters and
all the different colors. Yeah,
like I thought that was.
That's all. Finals hype.
It was finals hype, not, but like that, because I'm thinking about this in terms of like video hype production content stuff. It's been really cool, but I've been a little disappointed on some stuff. So I don't know what's going on. I hope we're getting something soon, but it is frustrating that we're a week out and we haven't. And people know I was also frustrated by the delay in getting the schedule out as well. And while we have seen the casters doing some stuff, like Dash did like an interview with Papa Smithy and all that, it's not really stuff that feels. One, it feels kind of like a more polished version of stuff that a lot of the content creators in the community are making anyway. So it's not. Like Riot has all this access to all these people and all this stuff, so it's kind of weird that they're not pushing more hype for it. I'm going to stall for Greg as he figures out how to navigate this question and throw it to you, Mark.
What? He hasn't had enough time to know the angle he's going? I mean,
what's your take?
I'm disappointed for sure. I mean, I'm not saying we need all the same stuff. Like, I don't want to sing. I don't want to be in a Kia commercial as well. I mean, I assume that's why that video exists, is because Kia was willing to pay for that beyond just.
I mean, it can be both, right? They wanted to make a hype video, and they found Kia as a partner to pay for it.
Sure, that's true. Maybe it was more on the sales team there doing that. But either way, I mean, like, See, it was funny. I was talking to someone about this last week. And I shouldn't say anything more than that.
Wait, that's what you're throwing out there. It's funny. I was talking to someone, and that's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, I was talking to someone. I got some extra context about like some of the numbers of like what it costs to make some of those videos and stuff like that, and like budgeting. And I was like, "Hey, man, if you ever need this to become, public information, somehow, some way for it to come out, No,
I'm sure it is tremendously expensive to create that stuff. But whenever our most hyped video is obviously with like a phone out in front of the LCS,
I'm not making excuses. I was just saying that, like, I was like, dude, if you ever want to like, have some information slip out about like, these figures or what, or like estimations or something, let me know. And he was like, no. So I won't say any more. That's the extent of that conversation.
Speaking of information slipping out,
people do. So I guess what I'm saying is people do talk about this internally at Riot too.
And speaking of information slipping out, we have former Rioter Greg Kim right now, who's going to share his take on this. But I mean, on the team side, Greg, you're director of League. I'm sure that you have conversations all the time with Riot. Is this something that you're seeing or feeling, or that you have an opinion on? You're muted, I think. The microphone issues continue.
Done.
Hello? Nope, still can't hear you. Well, it sounds like Riot got to Greg. Really disappointed at how quickly they were able to find him and clip the microphone cable. Riot Games shutting him down. This maybe either that or Greg himself has clipped the microphone. He's like, "Dear God, what's that? Oh, my microphone's not working. That's really strange that I can't share an opinion on it."
Real quick, while this is getting
thank you for helping us.
I just wanted to say, personally, I care way less about the hype videos and the content. Like that's important to me, but my number one priority would just be like non-dysfunctional communication about this kind of stuff, because that seems like a pervasive problem that's gotten worse in the last couple of years.
Right, and I think to the point about hype content stuff, like I think there should be something cool at the start of the season, but it's also like going into budgeting. Like, would you rather have 3 new weekly programs that are low to the ground and something that can work, or do you want to like blow a fat chunk of money on some dope hype thing at the start of the year that happens once, And I think we've seen Jat's new thing, like Travis was saying. It looks like Dash is doing something. Azale as well put something up, which I think is being helped produced by Riot, which was like his I forget what he called it, Lane Kingdom or something, where he just talks about laning stuff. So, I don't know how tied all these budgets are together, but there is more content going on as well.
Greg,
all right.
Yes.
Am I good? Okay. It fixed itself. I have no idea what's going on with this thing. I'm sure it's my laptop and not my headset.
Good sponsor save.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's like a tricky question to answer, right? And I'll caveat this with like I didn't work directly on content at Riot, obviously. I was looking at like how the viewership did after the fact. But like there are a lot of factors here. Like the same guys who do LCS, like, I think Mark's probably seen this too, like we like the English broadcast often like comes out of North America too, right? So something we experienced this past year was like a lot of people were working MSI and then they had to come right back to LA and they were working the college championships and they were right back into the summer split. So I think like sometimes what you don't see behind the scenes is like when like an individual Riot office like LCS or Riot NA versus like Riot EU, like who has ownership of what, and like when a team actually is like responsible for something, like when a team's covering more than you have visibility on, or when a team is covering less than you have visibility on, right? And I think like part of what you guys mentioned earlier, which is pretty astute, is like I don't know the financials, but I'm sure like Kia had a part in the production of those LEC hype videos, which just sort of enables the production of more content with less cost to Riot, or I guess the LEC office. So I don't know. I mean, I think like I expect we have an Eyes on video coming out pretty soon. And like I think part of it with franchising and or permanent partnership or whatever is that there was an expectation that the teams would lean in a little bit too. And I think at least for us, like we hopefully have something on the way this week that'll sort of add to the mix. But I don't know. It's definitely a tricky question. It's a lot of moving parts, and it comes down to like bandwidth, the office, the partnerships, and the budgets, and all that stuff.
Here's a juicy question that hopefully avoids pointing blame at anyone. Do you feel like as a new team coming into the league in North America, do you see like all the things that Europe gets, and do people on the team side feel that kind of jealousy that I think a lot of that I think a lot of fans feel? Sometimes there can be good reasons for why you don't have something shiny that your next door neighbor has, but it doesn't make the feeling any better. Where I think a lot of fans feel, oh, look at all this stuff they're getting. Where's ours? Do on the team side, people say, look at all this stuff that LEC franchise teams get made. Where's ours?
I think a little of it might be. So I'm cautious to say this, but I think a little bit might be recency bias, right? Like LEC obviously franchised last year, and like with the LCS, like it's been the go-to league in the West, at least from like an entertainment perspective, for a very long time. So I think like, obviously like the whole rebrand, the permanent partnership in Europe, like I think that generated a lot of attention. And of course, like having two teams like Fnatic and G2 at the top and having like the fan focus sort of like converging on those teams and having those teams in the summer finals last year, like that's how you get like broken records like the peak concurrent record that LAC summer finals had and stuff, right? So I think like the part of this, at least from the team perspective to me, and I don't know if this is naive and it's because I'm just coming from Riot, is like it's a permanent partnership model, right? So I think while it's right to certainly like demand the best from the league and make sure that the league's like innovating and striving to do whatever it can to drive up viewership, and believe me, having been the one sitting in that seat, like we were trying last year, like it's a combined effort in many ways, right? So like whether it's like teams leaning in on content or just like teams sort of doing whatever it takes to help the scene move along. I think it's a partnership there just as much as it is like
very
on the
diplomatic,
league.
Greg. I get it, but and I kind of
I will say, like, I kind of rambled there, but I do think like the LAC success last year was a little overhyped. Like, I think it's a very common thing on Reddit to say like, oh, viewership, it's like China, Korea, Europe, North America. Like, that's not really the case. Like, I think what's tricky with viewership metrics is like different metrics mean different things, and obviously different esports like use metrics in very different ways. And like part of why you see like the Nielsen stuff with Overwatch and LCS, and like you see that average minute audience number is like to try to get at a more accurate read on like what's going on with the league, if that
I
makes
just
sense.
think.
So you're saying,
Go ahead, Mark.
so you're saying that Europe was overhyped. North American LCS is still the better league for viewership. More people like us, right? That's what you're saying?
I'm saying I don't know if I can outright say that, but I'm saying it's like that's certainly not far from the truth if it's like not the truth, you know what I mean? Because I think like there's like a lot of dynamics to it. I know I keep saying that phrase, but like LCS, like I feel like like as a product, right? Like we have a lot of like former veterans from Europe who've come over as imports to the LCS. So like I think, and we have just like brands like TSM and C9 who were just like the de facto like league brands coming out of the West for a very long time, or at least from my perspective. I don't know if that's like too ignorant of Europe's history and Fnatic and everyone else, but like there's a lot of legacy and history to the LCS, and I think like the viewership followed that for a very long time. And when you look at like percentage growth year over year, like if you're going from like, if you're going from 20K to 70K, like that's very different from going like 140K to 150K, like in terms of a number, right?
Well, so I want to get us back on topic because I think we've gone off topic. GD Nerd's take was more just frustration around the lack of hype and also what he perceives as like a lack of communication around topics. It kind of seems like things are just kind of floating around, and I can totally understand that because when you're like, oh, we've got an update on fantasy later, and then it never comes, and the season starts, and you don't have the schedule up, and it doesn't feel like LCS has any of these hype videos that we're seeing in LEC. It does feel as though what's going on over there is someone dropping the ball. Like, League fans are looking for a reason to get excited about this coming year of LCS, and it does not feel like Riot themselves are doing a very good job of helping them in that manner. And I would definitely agree with that a ton, and I hope that it's something that Riot is seeing. It's frustrating to me because, like, I made the joke in my monologue yesterday at the Gaffies, like, oh, we decided to put as much effort into promoting this show as Riot did in the start of the LCS, and I copy-pasted that for my monologue last year because they did the same thing last year. So, like, this is the shit that does get me frustrated, where it's like, all right, they've definitely not going to do it again, and then LEC comes out with all this cool shit, and Riot's just like, here's a funny horror show video with Kobe and Freak, which, by the way, Kobe, much better actor than I expected. Makes me worried about some of the compliments he's paid me at home, but does not necessarily do a good job of promoting the start of the split. There, I said it. All right.
Oh my God, Travis! I can't believe you said that thing
Shots fired.
that you've said.
I know, I've said it dozens of times, which just makes me even more frustrated. Nerd, what would you like to see differently? Maybe that's how we'll wrap the call.
So I understand there's a lot of limitations because of a lot of these things seem to have had screwed up communications issues with the league start in Fantasy LCS with internal business deals that he can't talk about. But there needs to be a better way to communicate to the public. Like, here's what you should expect. Like, here's when LCS starts. Like, sure, we can't talk about format just yet, but here's when it's starting. Because my guess is it wasn't going to move around by a few weeks.
Yeah.
And just like in general, have like a clear picture for what's going on. If you can talk about something you're trying to make happen, talk about it. But like, try and make things not feel like things are falling into place at the last second, because that's definitely been the impression I've gotten from Greeley on virtually everything over the last
Thank you
while.
for calling in, Nerd. Is there anything you want to say on the way out?
Shout out to Alienware. We use them at my work. They're great.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, we get so many Alienware shout-outs at the end of these things. I fucking love it. All right. Mark, you want to grab our next caller?
Sure.
Speaking of shout-outs, shout out to Portal on Mars, Weird Dude 25, Easy Moto, Has 2099, John McBonusunza, The Graphic Truth, Paradox, The Only, The Slatherpuss, I Hate Snarf, Vienna LOL, Anero for 2 years. Congratulations, Anero. We love you. And Os Phase for 13 months. We'll be getting our next caller here in any moment. If you're just joining right now, by the way, we're interviewing or speaking with our guest tonight is Greg Kim, who is the director of LCS. Is it director of League or director of LCS?
I think it's technically director of LCS.
It feels weird that you're a director of a product. Like the LCS is a product, right? Whereas like League.
Yeah, I guess like if you drew it out, it would be a director of LCS.
Who was responsible for giving you that title?
Either Nicole or Phil, one of the two.
Do you feel like are you happy with that title, or do you feel like they should have done a better job of?
It's a step up from like Insights lead, I guess. So hard to complain about.
So you're saying the bar was so low that whenever you got that title, Paradox the Only is here. Paradox, where are you calling from? You're muted. There we go.
Hey, how's it going? Let me just
You're good.
The stream. I'm from Iowa City, Iowa.
Iowa City, Iowa. And you've been on the show before a couple times, right?
Wow, man, 9 months ago.
No, I remember like it was just yesterday. That's how much I care about the people who call into the show. Paradox, what do you want to talk about?
So I don't know what Mark pulled me in for. I had 2 topics.
Okay, wait. What were they again?
So one was on why CLG will be a top 3 team and challenge for the title, and then the other was Team Liquid not being in the top 3 for the regular.
I picked you for CLG. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, cool.
But I care more about the Team Liquid one.
We talk about Team Liquid all the time.
Yeah.
When's the last time someone talked about CLG?
I mean, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's fine. They know the help they can
Paradox, talk about. You said CLG will be in top 3. Fascinatingly, can we merge these? Can we? Because you're saying CLG will be in the top 3 and Team Liquid won't. That's actually the most fascinating part of this.
Yeah. And I actually do think both of them are related to one another. I mean, if Team Liquid's not going to be out there, that gives CLG a chance to be up there.
Tell me.
Let's start off with Team Liquid.
Yes.
I think biggest thing is visa issues, of course. I mean, that's going to play a role into how well they start off the spring split. And in addition to that, even if they do have Broxer right away, I think that what Xmithy did for this team involved plugging in like a lot of holes. He had a calm mind and leadership, and I think they're really going to miss that.
Okay. And then sorry, give me the CLG one as well.
Okay, and then in regards to why CLG be a top 3 team, I mean, they already were split, and I think they've only improved.
They were? Because I don't remember seeing them at Worlds.
No, in the summer split.
Yeah, I know. I consider playoffs to be more representative of the strength of the team during like the summer split than I do. Well, whatever. Your point is well taken. They definitely progressed a ton during the split, and then just couldn't make it out in playoffs. So you think they will this year because they already were last year, and presumably you think that they've upgraded their roster?
Yeah, I would say that Crown is a clear upgrade over PoE, and then I think Smoothie is a little more contentious. You can say he's a upgrade or downgrade or side grade.
What do you think about Irene leaving CLG? Because my understanding was that Irene was actually really helpful in getting that team into a good place as a coach.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. I think my thoughts on that are that I think Song, who came in, has been misjudged unfairly. I think anyone going to TSM has a hard time in that with Zix. And then in regards to, I think he was on Echo Fox. He was a coach for Echo Fox when they did well, wasn't he?
You mean when they made 3rd place?
Yeah.
No.
Was he not?
That was an arrow, I think. Song was only last year.
Yeah, I think Irene came over. Oh, sorry, we're talking about Song. You're saying?
Yeah, Song was on Echo Fox last year. He was on TSM 2 years ago when they were doing well, or excuse me, when they weren't doing as well.
Yeah, I think that's right, actually. But I think that recently he had a bad performance, I guess, on TSM. But I think that most coaches that go to TSM usually have a hard time. So I think that wasn't a fair, assessment of him.
Gotcha. All right. I'll throw it to Greg first. Greg, your team have been scrimming certain teams. I don't know if they've been scrimming these ones, but I feel like you might have more insight into the strengths of some of the teams than maybe Mark and I do. I don't know how much you can talk about it, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to leak scrim results, but I have a tough time.
Yeah, people do literally all the time.
I will say, well, I'm not going to throw stones at other teams. I will say,
your team is literally called Evil Geniuses. That's all you do is throw stones at other teams.
That is very fair, and probably more than throw stones. But I mean, like, look, I'll leave it with this on CLG. Like, their head coach chose to come to us, and he was excited about what we had. So I don't know if you have us in your top 3, but I don't know. I think we can certainly give them a run for their money, and I'm not sure if they're top 3. It's hard to say. It's really early, and like everyone's been dealing with the visa issues and stuff. So like the scrims have been all wonky. But I don't know. Like at the same time, it's like it's hard to see why. Like if your reasoning is that CLG is going to break top 3 and TL's not going to break top 3, I'm not sure like what evidence there is to say that like TL's just like not going to be good and CLG is going to take.
Weldon joined EG. Weldon
Sorry?
joined EG.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, like our head coach is there. CLG's
Yeah.
former strategic coach.
I'm just
like
teasing.
Irene.
I knew what
yeah,
you meant.
exactly. For sure. So I don't know. I have a tough time with both of those
Paradox,
takes.
do
Quite
you have a
frankly.
rebuttal to any of this?
Well, I think stating that I have no evidence as to why Team Liquid won't. I guess I didn't really hear where you'd have them placed, but as to why they'd be outside of top 3, I think there's clear evidence where if Brox doesn't start right away, this team is going to play without a jungler that they haven't consistently practiced with. And even if they do have Brox to come in, who I think individually is an upgrade over Xmithy, I think that Xmithy, what he offered to the team is, just to elaborate on the plug-in holes thing, is that I think that sometimes the bot lane or mid lane made mistakes that Xmithy kind of plugged up for them and helped like damage control, so to speak. And I think that's something that Broxa might not be willing to do.
I mean, I can buy them not being first or even top 2, maybe if in the regular season with some of the problems that you're talking about. Falling all the way out of top 3, meaning they're down at 4th, is a bit of a stretch for me.
Team Liquid 4th is a stretch for you?
Ha!
Thank you.
Funny meme. But I do think come playoffs they'll be fine. So it depends if you're talking about regular season or not.
Yeah, just regular season.
Yeah, okay. I can buy them not being first or even maybe second, but I don't know. 4th is like, okay, so all these other teams that haven't played together are going to have synergy, like, because you're talking about, oh, they're not playing without their starting jungler. Like, well, all these teams have never played together, basically. So it's a question of how good is Pobelter going to be and how long he has to play for. But I can't imagine that it's that huge of an issue. On the CLG point, I would like to buy in with you, but I don't think I can. I think Biofrost is a better than Smoothie, and not just it's just a little bit. I think he is a little bit a noticeable amount better. I think Smoothie might be more likely to take over a game, but I think the Crown for PoE one is also one that I'm not 100% sold on, because I know people love Crown. I love Crown. I know he's individually amazing, and he tries to do more than PoE did, where PoE often was not super proactive in trying to take the game over. But like, there were a lot of games where Crown tried to do that, was not on the same page with his team, and died a bunch, and was like one of the reasons that they probably would have lost anyways, because it's not like they have that much playmaking on that team without him. But it wasn't like he was always, this like pop off god. And there's more talent around him on CLG. Maybe that will allow him to not need to do quite as much. And so he won't have quite as many of those blow up performances as he had on Immortals. But there is still like extra communication concerns that you might have now, whereas PoE was completely fluent. Crown is not. So I don't know. I think I agree it's an upgrade in the mid lane. I think it's a downgrade in the bot lane, and then you have to worry about the whole mix of how does it all work together now.
I just think Irene leaving is going to be the thing that fucks
that
CLG
too,
the
right?
most.
It's
Yeah, I was gonna say, at least like, I don't know what the before was like over at CLG, but just seeing Irene with us, like I think he's a really good I feel like we have the best coaching staff in the league. Like, we can go toe to toe with any other coaching staff in the league. And like, I don't know what songs Year at Echo Fox was like. Obviously that's a very hard situation for anyone. UTOS going through whatever that org was going through last year's, but I think like, I don't know. I feel like last year, like, the general consensus was CLG kind of outperformed expectations. And I feel like that's the kind of thing where like your coach should come in and get the best out of the pieces that you have there, or like maybe teach them how to play league better. And I think like the thing that's been fascinating for me, like on the team side, is like sitting there and seeing our coaches work with our players and like trying to get the best out of them. So I think that's definitely not to be underrated. I don't know how Song's gonna do, but I feel like we picked up a great asset in Irene for sure.
Yeah. Well,
no, I definitely agree with that. I think Irene's a really good coach. I just think that what you're touching on, where he makes players play like a team together, I think that's something that they're not just going to forget, and I think that's something that they'll carry into the next split. I think COG is a team that plays better than the sum of their parts. They're really, how would I say, not that they like to, but they're willing to sacrifice individual glory for team glory.
Paradox, anything you want to say or shout out before we move on to the next caller?
No, that's it. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much for the call. All right, on to the next caller. Off mark goes. Echo Fox GG has resubscribed for 2 months. I don't know if that's the Echo Fox Twitch account and who runs it, but I really appreciate that. Did you get the Echo Fox GG Twitch account as part of the LCS transfer, Greg?
Not that I know of.
Dude 25 has gifted a sub to Counter Logic Gaming, so I'm glad that we have multiple teams coming in as subs on the show. Either way, we should be back here in just a second. For all those that don't know, because Riot hasn't told you, LCS is starting this Saturday. You can tune in. There's going to be 4 teams that are playing in the LCS or 4 matches, 8 teams this Saturday, 25th. Get excited for it. All right, looks like we got Quantum Ranger here. Quantum Ranger, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from San Diego, California.
Whereabouts in San Diego?
I'm right by San Diego State University.
Nice.
Actually.
Yeah, I love San Diego. I'm from that area.
Yeah, I'm born and raised here. Actually, I love it.
San Diego bros for life. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about how I think everyone is sleeping on 100 Thieves.
Oh, did Papa Smithy pay you? I saw him in the chat earlier.
I'm getting a cool coaching session from him later. No, I'm just kidding. I think that 100 Thieves is underrated for a couple reasons. One, I've been watching Papa Smithy's YouTube reviews for a long time, as long as I've been playing League, and he's been doing them. I think his brain works really well. But another
the highest
thing
form of compliment.
Sure, right? It's not my main point, so I'm like, whatever.
It was just phrased in a funny way. You know, he's not smart. His brain just works good. It's been greased up real nice. It's got to streamlined real good.
100%.
Great working brain.
My degree in college was in communication, and I'm clearly doing excellent at it. But it is related.
Do you attend San Diego State?
I did.
Well,
highest quality
education. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, and watching the interview that he did with Dash, he really emphasized communication amongst the team. And when you watch some of these mid-level teams, when you see them playing in the league, you can really tell that there's some communication issues that are going on. Maybe some missed calls, maybe Sven getting caught out by Baron. Those types of things. And I think that his emphasis on communication is huge. That being said, I think that someday Meteos and Cody are actually, we're sleeping on them from a talent perspective. So I think that while we still see Ryoma, I think is what he wants to be called, and Stunt coming in as fresh blood into the team, I think that their emphasis on working together and working through Cody-san, Someday, and Meteos is actually going to be really successful for them.
I like that you brought up communication. It's a really interesting point for this team. I think your points about Meteos and Cody, I agree with. Ryoma's a big question mark for me. I'm not going to pretend I know jack shit about this kid. So it's going to make everything I say from here on a little sus. But the Someday thing is the interesting one for me, because he, as good as he is and as good of a personality as he seems to have, it almost seems like he's not dominant enough in what he wants given to him, because whenever they play Someday centric play styles, it's really hit or miss. We remember his insane Jax individual play that saved a game, but there's not that many instances where they turbo snowballed through Someday alone, or anything like that, where they did 3-man roams and it worked really well. I mean, Ryu was pretty good about it, but it wasn't super consistent. And the best 100 Thieves ever looked was that really slow play style, which often revolved more around getting kills in the bot lane with Afro and Meteos. And I think they can do that again with Stunt. But the thing I've heard about Stunt and the rub on him for why, despite his excellent solo queue record, that he couldn't stick on a team was that people often disagreed with his in-game calls and didn't like how adamant he was about these calls and stuff like that. And so that usually led to, people having friction with him and not wanting to play with him where there was difference of opinion, pretty big ones. So that's my concern is like when we saw the Meteos someday Cody kind of thing 2 years ago with admittedly a different mid laner and support, it was a really good team that focused more around bot lane and mid to late game situations before it kind of fell apart. You don't necessarily have the same people. I think Meteos has been underrated for his communication and shot calling and stuff like that because most of the teams he's been on are pretty good in those situations, and it's not always just Aphromoo. But I think Ryoma's a big X factor, which can make all this kind of turn on its head. But
Sure.
I have not seen people in North America ever in Someday's history here successfully play around him for extended periods of time. No one has been able to make him the primary carry on the team. Didn't happen when he was with Dignitas. Way back when Dignitas was a different team, before they left the league. It never really worked with 100 Thieves, and he doesn't necessarily need to be the primary carry here. But I'm not sure that things are going to work as well as they did in the past in the bot and the mid lane, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm not convinced Ryoma's instantly going to be Ryu, and I'm not convinced Stunt will be Afro when he was good.
Right. Well, I think one thing, and to your point, I agree that some of the shot calling has been interesting, but Meteos seems to have a really strong voice. And if he's working in line and directing the whole team, I think someday could play a pretty good weak side top laner while we're getting Cody fed. I think we kind of sleep on Cody. I mean, he's been to Worlds with 3 different teams. Like,
I'm a huge Cody fanboy. Don't get me wrong. I think I put him number one split on my all pro voting. I think Someday's a fantastic tank player. I have no problem with his play on the weak side. It's not usually about his play on the weak side. It's when the rest of the team isn't doing enough that his weak side play can it's like, all right, Someday you're going to be the second option, and he's great about playing the second option. It's just the first option's not working out well enough, and then when they try and make him the first option, it never works. So I guess that's my concern is can the other 4 members do enough? Because I don't think I haven't seen, I want to believe I think Someday is an amazing player, but I've never seen him be the primary carry on any team in North America.
Well, why are we forcing him to be the primary carry?
Well, because I'm saying if the Ryoma, Cody, Stunt, Meteos 4-man core doesn't work and Someday's stuck playing weak side, then it's not going to be enough.
Greg, from the EG side, what's your perspective on 100T so far?
So I mean, we're playing them week 1, so we haven't seen them in scrims or anything. So, and it's like hard for me to comment on the league side because, like, I'm not our talent evaluator, right? I'm head of operation, but I think like what's interesting to me and like all these power rankings and these conversations and like the fan perspective on an org is like, you only see certain parts of it, and like I think like the narrative's controlled by like how good an org is at communicating stuff out. Like I think 100 Thieves they put out pieces with Nachon and Papa Smithy. They had a good one with Zix and Papa Smithy, I think. So like totally like credit to them for getting it out there and like having that emphasis on communication, right? But I think like that doesn't mean that the rest of us aren't putting that emphasis on like communication, and that doesn't mean like I think like Papa Smithy was always one of my favorite casters, very articulate about the game, very smart, but like that doesn't mean like at EG like our brains don't work so good, right? I feel like we have like I think we have one of the smartest like orgs and staffs in the league, if not esports. And like I feel pretty comfortable saying that. So like I don't know. I think it's a good thing, and any team who wants to be competitive should have that emphasis on like communication and culture, but I don't think that like that doesn't necessarily mean like a team's gonna outperform like
how confident are you going up against 100T this weekend?
I feel pretty good. I'm like our team, I feel like our team, like the sky's the limit. It depends like how it all comes together, but like our scrims have been like variable. There've been like pop-off days, there've been tougher days.
It sounds very hedging your bets. Pretty good.
It's in my nature. I think we're gonna win both games this weekend.
Great idea, Travis. Great content idea for you. Get all the staff and coaches of each org to take an IQ test, you know, and see who has the smartest coaching staff.
It's a good idea.
I mean, you could also just look at our resumes.
Listen, this is esports, Greg. I don't
That's
know
not
if you know
content.
about how some of these
We need
people get these
content.
jobs. Resumes in esports usually mean
well,
jack
I
shit.
mean, that's my point, right? Like, so, like, if you're making the judgment on like who's intelligent in the space, like, there are arbitrary ways of doing it, and there are like non-arbitrary ways of doing it. So, if it's an IQ test, if it's like if you want to make education a thing, like, go for it. Like,
I don't
I
want to
think,
make education
I'll
or
stand up to
IQ test a
anyone.
thing, because I
I think
Fair
IQ
enough.
test, dude. Think about you get Artemis and Peter Zhang taking an IQ test at the same time. The same. Well, I guess English reading comprehension might be a
All I'm
problem.
saying is,
for some coaching staff.
Greg, when he was in college, invited me to go to his college to give to take part in a panel. So really, I'm very smart.
That was business school, wasn't it?
I don't know. You tell me,
That was slow.
Mr. Smarty
It was
Pants.
slow. That was
What if we
business.
did Pottermore quizzes instead?
That's way better. Which team will win based off
What?
of their house?
Oh my God, they have the same Patronuses. They're going to work great together.
Team synergy. If your mid and your jungle are the same house, oh shit, it's over.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
God.
Thanks, Quantum Ranger, for the call. Curious to see how 100T does. Where would you place them?
I think I'd put them at third.
Okay. Behind?
So I'm a fan of C9, but C9's looking a little suspect recently. I don't know if I'm a big fan of their moves. I think that Team Liquid's going to be at number 1, and there's going to be a fight between 100 Thieves, C9, TSM, and Evil Geniuses for 2
Did you
and
add
3.
Evil Geniuses at the end of that because Greg is in the call? Okay.
No, that is actually, I didn't even know who you were until I logged on. Sorry, man.
It's
Like,
all good.
I have small brain
Yeah, it's okay.
plays.
Thanks, Quantum, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Shout out to the squad and to Kiwi.
Have a good one.
One final point on this is just the Zix point. Kind of, so we start getting conversations. I think he's actually kind of like last chance feeling to me. I like Zix a lot, and I think he is smart and good about the game. But like at some point, you run out of goodwill, and it's definitely like a "what have you done for me lately" kind of scene, you know. And well, probably it should be more actually. Sometimes we keep people around too long, but Zix at CLG had some of the best stuff, you know, North America's ever had. Then it kind of turned sour, and there's obviously disagreements with management, and he got let go. Then the TSM thing didn't work out. Now on 100 Thieves, I think he's really good, but you know, if he has a bad year again with 100 Thieves, it feels like it's starting to look pretty sour for him.
Yeah, you're usually only as good as
almost
your
won.
last 2 years, I feel like, as a coach.
They were like a game away from spring split finals though last year, weren't they?
Yeah. Wait, no. Wait, who am I thinking of? Yeah.
Yeah, TSM.
Yeah. I mean, I think but I mean,
not being at Worlds is tough, but
well, I think also the kind of like regression that you saw, as well as the whole TSM situation was weird. I mean, we talked about this before, Travis, but like the way Parth worded that thing to not
it
include
definitely felt
Tony
like
at all,
Zix was
and
cut
like,
out of the coaching staff at a certain point in time, unofficially.
yeah, and it wasn't like, it didn't seem like they liked him a lot as much as like when they joined up, it was like finally like TSM and Zix, it's finally happened, everyone's stoked, and then it didn't go well, and he's gone a year later. Like that's not a ringing endorsement, even if they did have some.
So I
good
do
moments.
have an interview with Zix going up this week, and maybe I'll air it after the stream if we get enough subs. So
yeah. I mean, more to the point, I like Zix a lot, and I think he's good. I don't think he would be like completely out of the scene. I just mean like maybe like Peter, he's getting less. He's not a head coach if this goes poorly, and he's instead an analyst or something again. I don't know.
All right, you want to grab the next caller? I'm hoping we got some EG calls coming up because I feel kind of bad that we're just making Greg talk about Riot and the other teams.
it's all good. I'm happy to address whatever. I will say on the fantasy thing though earlier, like there's no one at Riot who wanted fantasy more badly than me, and like behind the scenes, like I can't, like maybe Riot could communicate better, but like we sure as hell were working hard on that like all year.
I'm gonna find out what the monitor says now.
How I'm doing.
Good brain. Okay, your performance review just keeps getting updated. I feel like you're trying to move
Yeah,
to block it now. That's what I'm noticing.
All right, I'm moving out
it's
of the way. There you go.
Nicole's dodging. What is on her desk? Sour Patch Kids? Is that like a
Yeah.
very evil situation? We could just do
they're
like
sour.
a
I don't know.
Nicole desk performance review right now. There's Sour Patch Kids. There's a box, like a takeout box, maybe the brown one. I don't know. It's very interesting what's going on over there. All right, whatever. We have our next caller here, I believe. Nope, not yet. All right, we can keep wasting time with this. There's like a.
Here we go. Sorry about that.
It's fine. We were evaluating Nicole's desk. Tank is here.
Are those
what?
Sour
Yeah,
Patch
they're
Kids?
Sour Patch Kids. It's like a secret EG sponsor, and she's using this show as a way to fulfill the deliverables. Anyway, we got Tank here. Tank, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Wheeling, West Virginia.
Wheeling, West Virginia. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that EG they get third place in summer and make worlds.
EG gets third this summer. This summer or spring?
Summer.
Oh, where do you have them in spring?
I think they could be up there still. I mean, I feel like just kind of have to wait and see. I think they're going to work it out as they go.
These are all just a bunch of random hedging statements that you're making right now. What does that actually mean? Why don't you want to place them top 3 in the spring?
Well, I think they could. I think it's kind of open. I think Liquid and TSM are my top 2 right now, and I'm just not really hyped on Cloud9 or anyone else really. I think it's kind of wide open, but
I thought this was going to be a bigger ringing endorsement.
Yeah,
so.
so he's like 9 months from now they will place top 3 and make worlds. Like it's a good statement, but we're in January, so it's interesting that you feel like it's going to take so long. Why do you think it's going to take so long?
Well, I just kind of want to see what happens with Jizuke in the mid lane, see if he adapts well in the LCS.
Are you implying that they might make a change if Jizuke doesn't work, and that's what will get them into a good place?
Hold on. You're taking the negative angle here. What do you see in this team that makes you confident that they'll make worlds in summer? How about that?
I think Sven Skaren and Jizuke will end up working out really well together. I think that synergy will end up working out pretty well. And I think the bot lane's pretty stable. I don't know. I just got to think it'll work out better for him. Like, if I compare him to Cloud9, I just like the matchup better. I feel like they could do better against them. But I guess it's kind of...
You're bringing some high-level points here, I would say. Okay, well, let's just toss it over to Mark. So, as Greg is here, I think Tank has a very general statement here, which is that they'll be top 3 in summer and make it to Worlds. Do you think this is a team, when you look at it, that can be top 3? Because it does, as I've said before, it does seem as though a lot of people are pretty confident on C9, TSM, and TL, and maybe some people drop TSM or C9 based off of opinions, but do you see EG getting their way in?
It's tough. I think right around the 2nd through 4th or 5th is when you see a lot of close teams. Like I think TL is first. Pretty much everyone thinks that. And then I would probably put C9 second, but then for 3, I'm basically between EG,
TSM.
I brain farted. TSM, yeah. EG and TSM are probably the next 2 closest ones, with Dignitas and CLG maybe sneaking in there as well for me. That's my initial thoughts on it. But for me, the EG concerns are, like, on paper, if everyone hits their high end, I think this team could be really good. I mean, Bang obviously didn't have a great start to his North American debut, but kind of picked it up towards the end. I think we all know Bang can be really good. Zeyzal has been, for the most part, really good during his time on C9.
He had a rough summer, right?
It wasn't great, and I think the entire bot lane got a lot of criticism. Zeyzal as well struggles with some laning phase, but a good playmaker for the team overall, I think, is the general consensus on him. Sven Skaren, just straight up a beast. And then Kumo's a question mark. I watched him a fair amount in Academy. he didn't strike me the way Licorice and Academy and Challenger Scene struck me. So I don't
His
think
LCS games went really
to
well,
me-
though, right?
I think there's some debate to that. He got a lot of help. I think C9, whenever they started someone, they would do this kind of like, let's enable him. Let's see what his best champion is. Let's put him on his best champion. Let's play around him. And they won some games and they lost some games with Kumo. But I think he played Jace a lot, and he usually didn't have great leads the way you would want out of the Jace games, if I remember correctly. So I wasn't like, he's not bad. I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but I don't think he'll be super dominant. And then Jizuke is a big question mark. We saw how good he can be at different times in Europe and at Worlds, but he also is sometimes prone to some low points, I think, a sort of volatile player. So on the top end, you have Kumo working out, Sen and Jizuke, like the caller said, have good synergy and they're really aggressive. And the bot lane is mostly a kind of mid-late game, and they have a lot of playmaking and synergy kind of built in from all being C9 guys. So I think there are a lot of strengths to it. Some of the coaching staff stuff, like we've already talked about. So I do think that they have the potential, and I don't think this is a team that will explode. I don't think there's a way that they're just straight awful. And it's mostly about how they stack up to TSM for me. That's my entire.
What is your thoughts
EG
on
kind of
Mark's
thoughts.
assessment? I'm actually really curious about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are all really fair takes, right? I think like the caller's answer, like the reasoning, it sounds like something I would say. It's a little hedgy. Like I think but I think it's true. I think like Spring's the hard call to make, because for us, like the challenge is how this team comes together, right? Like of the guys that we brought in, like Svenskeren and Zays were the only two who were playing regularly together last split, and so like, this is a brand new team coming together, and a lot of these guys are playing together for the first time. We opted to start one European import and one Korean import, which most teams don't do. They usually go like two Koreans, two Europeans. So like there's certainly a lot of coming together to be done. But I think at a higher level, like at least watching these guys play, and I think there's been some stuff about our boot camp in Korea. Like I truly do feel like the sky's the limit with our team. Like I've seen Kumo go against like pretty renowned top laners and do pretty good, and I've seen Jizuke, and I've seen these guys in action, and I feel really good about our guys. And I think more importantly, like I feel like, obviously this is my first year doing stuff on the team side, but I feel like this is the beginning of a process of like truly building like an organization the right way. Right. I think like we are going to do everything it takes to, like, with our coaches, with our staff, to like get these guys to play at their peak. And like, I think we recognize like Jizuke has a bit of a redemption story after last year. Bang has a bit of a redemption story after last year, but I think we're giving them all a better environment and better teammates than they had last year. And, if the pieces click together, like maybe we're going to MSI, like who knows? But like, I think like the answer like on November 30th or whatever would be, I don't know, like let's wait to see them. But right now I feel like these guys have a lot of potential.
Okay, so
and it's, how quickly can we scale
I
up?
appreciate we're a new org. We're going to try everything we can to do for these players. Though I will tell you, I have interviewed so many orgs that have said that before, and a lot of them no longer exist even. So I mean, I appreciate that you're saying it, but obviously we have to see how things go. One thing I do want to challenge you on, though, is just the Jizuke thing, because I feel like he seems to be the one that has taken the most heat as you signed him. Because last time, so for those that don't know, I actually interviewed Greg, if anybody wants to go back, and it's kind of fun because you can maybe reflect on where it was then, because at the time you had just acquired some C9 players, but a lot of the other situations were not filled in yet. And it feels like people were pretty hype. Then Jizuke came in and people were like, this feels kind of random. How did this happen? So I'd love to get your take, or your defense of Jizuke for the people who are doubting him.
Purely on Jizuke, not like how the
right. Yeah. No, but just
went.
Specifically, like, there's some people out there who are like rating your team lower because of Jizuke on it. Do you feel like?
Yeah. I mean, I think for us, like, I think it's safe to say from our staff perspective, like, we felt like we'd be giving him better teammates than he had last year. So like we would be putting out a team on the Rift that could support him and enable him to like be the aggressive playmaker that he is. And we also felt like with Artemis and Irene that like we'd have a coaching staff who'd know how to sort of like get the pieces to fit together and get the most out of him. And I think what we've seen in scrims and whatnot, like it's been pretty fun to watch him. That's for sure. I feel like he's going to be like an exciting mid laner, and I think like the doubts, like it's hard to uncouple that from like the year that Vitality had last year, or just like maybe it's a sophomore slump. I'm not sure, but I will say like he's super motivated. All the guys are super motivated, and like they're gonna put in the time and the practice and all that stuff. Like they're solo queuing, they're doing everything it takes. So that sounds a little shilly and like buzzwordy and like rah team, but like I don't know. Looking at him scrims, like he's got some champions that are a lot of fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing them on LCS. That's for sure.
Tank, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to say as we move on to our final caller?
Oh no, thanks for having me on. Shout out to Alienware, and yeah, thanks
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, guys.
God, I think almost everyone has shouted out Alienware on the show. Fucking love stuff like that. All right, Mark, you want to grab our last caller?
Did I die?
Mark, hello, Mark.
Hello, I died. I don't know why I died.
Maybe I died. I see a couple drop frames, so I'm not sure. But
no, I definitely died because I lagged. I think I couldn't hear anyone.
You want to grab our last caller?
He's not a real caller. He was so I'll shout him out now because we're saying goodnight. Praetor was going to talk about 100 Thieves, and then I pulled someone else who typoed 100 Thieves. Or they typoed EG, and I pulled him for EG, but he actually wanted to talk about 100 Thieves too. But Praetor has been on the show a couple times, and so he stepped back to let the other guy take the 100 Thieves topic.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
Shout out to Praetor.
We only had one EG topic?
For being a homie.
We had Greg on, we only had one EG topic?
What? You can talk to him.
Pleb topics or subtopics right now. Stick an EG topic in, because I don't want to have the director of LCS on the show for EG and only have one EG topic.
All right, I'll move someone else in, but it's not specific.
If they're not talking about us now, we'll give them something to talk about in a couple weeks.
Okay, wait. OPTSM's fan is the same take as the last caller.
Okay, that's my point.
Somebody else, quick, put an EG. Wait, I see somebody who at 9/11 said EG is overrated and will not make playoffs. Well, then they're talking about C9 and IMT. Somebody come in and yell at Greg.
Can I ask Greg a question?
Okay. Wait, it's Kelby.
This Kelby joined himself.
Kelby just joins the channel. Okay, go for it, Kelby. Thank God.
Greg, so I've been watching the show, and
we should full disclosure. By the way, Kelby had a business relationship with EG whenever he worked at Twitch. So, just disclosing that. Anyway, go ahead, Kelby.
Well, yeah, and I used to work at EG. But yeah, I thought it was very interesting that you said that you already felt like you had one of the smartest and most competent staffs, not only in League of Legends, but all of esports. Having worked for this organization and on the team side less than 6 months, I felt like that was a pretty bold claim. So I'd like to know from you what you have been able to identify as something that's missing in the space, and you are feeling that other organizations are not.
Clearly, what we're learning is Kelby's relationship with EG when it ended was not on good terms. That's what I'm picking up right now.
Well, like, I don't know. I mean, like, in terms of like seeing the other orgs in the league, like I did sit in on the owners meetings from the Riot side, so I got like a little sense of it there.
Who's the dumbest org? You said that you're the smartest org, so could you give us who are the dumbest orgs?
I mean, Echo Fox. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right?
Oh boy. Okay.
I don't know if that was too much. I don't know. I mean, I think like I'll give you an example. Like they're operationally, like probably the most different thing about coming on the team side was actually just like seeing what some of the operational standards of the LCS are. Like I think EG like coming to this org has felt like just shifting from one like really great company to another really great company, right? Because like I think with stuff like, I don't know, you've seen a little bit with visas, you see it a bit with like housing, you see it with the way players orgs treat certain players. Like it's not very buttoned up in esports, right? Like esports have come a long way in the past couple of years, but like we're not quite where pro sports are yet. And I think like it's really, I don't know, it feels like pretty reassuring to be part of an org that's like dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's. Like, you know, we understand like the context of like where it's important, like the business side and the sponsorships are important, right? And like every org like talks about like, oh, we need to film content for our sponsors, but like we have a holistic sense of that, right? And like I think we have a good idea of like where performance also intersects with like making money off of esports or trying to break even in esports. So I think just like seeing operationally like what some of the other teams are doing or what you hear some of the other teams are doing, and like we get a little bit of that word of mouth because we like went out and got a bunch of people who used to work for other teams because they believe in our org identity and like the mission and everything. So I don't know, it's a little bit of observation, it's a little bit of I think having some frustrations when I worked at Riot with a couple of the teams. It's a mix, but I think like the best answer is like I feel really good like giving up that TFT money and coming to work for an org like this one.
Gotcha. So, based on your outside observations of the esports teams in League of Legends that you were working with at Riot, being in a role that you weren't the commissioner and you were a party to some of these conversations, but like
he
you
was in
weren't,
the
like,
owners
overseeing
meeting. He was
esports
in the
team
owners meetings. You
relationships.
can't act as though he wasn't. He was.
No, I'm asking for clarification. I don't know if he was in the owners meetings or not.
You just said he was.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So now you've come internal to Evil Geniuses for less than 6 months, and you think that the intersection of responsibility between players and sponsorship obligations and also weighing performance is the big area that you guys are improving on, that you think qualifies you for one of the smartest and most competent esports organizations in all of esports?
I think that's an example of how I've seen it. I think like the way that we'll demonstrate it to the LCS is like how we do in terms of trying to be best in class in operation, right? Like we have a brand new facility, like we're doing what like I'm using the phrase "we'll do whatever it takes" a lot, but like we're trying to stand up a facility that like enables our players to play super well, right? Like we tried to get like the best coaching staff for our guys. Like even if like in our career boot camp, it even meant like if it means going downstairs to get the guys like sodas and drinks, like it's a lot of just having a player and culture focus for us. Like I think that's how we're going to demonstrate it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does that
no,
sound
player
too-
and culture
Okay.
focus.
I'll
You guys
hang
will
on.
be the first org to have a player and culture
Sons-
focus.
Like I'm happy for you guys to call me out on buzzwords because I hate buzzwords. Like,
I'll take a swing.
Wait, Travis, let me do one. Let me do one more. Let me do one more.
Let me do one more. These aren't pies in the face, Kelby. It's not like you get.
Wait, so Greg, in order to properly evaluate in terms of like your guys' success metrics moving forward, where do you think it will show through, and like where can we point to and see like, hey, what you're saying is actually true? Is it going to be the performance of the team, or like how are we going to see that EG operationally is doing things different and better than everybody else who has been working in the space for years, like Steve and Jack and Lena and everybody in like the LCK and LPL? Where are we going to see Evil Geniuses marks where we know that they're performing at the level you think you guys are?
Sure. So on like the team performance side, I would say like you look at our track record on a 3-year time frame. Obviously, it's nice if everything pops up this year, but like I have good confidence in our 3-year plan in terms of like on the Rift, right? Off the Rift, I think you can look at stuff like share of voice, like LCS fandom, like how people identify with our org, and then internally, like I'm sure we'll evaluate that on revenue and like traditional business metrics.
That's a fair answer.
All right.
No, I mean, what else would you want them to be evaluated on? Performance, sponsorship revenue, and fandom, like share of fandom. Those are like the 3 things that most teams would be evaluated on, right?
Yeah. No, I think that those are like fine success metrics. I think that my bigger gripe really is just that, and quite transparently, Greg, like you do not have very much experience at all working inside an esports organization and through like the thick and thin of a season understand the hurdles that must be overcome. Like you haven't worked on the business side of the organization, you haven't worked on the player side, you've been observing things entirely from the outside perspective. And to say that like you guys are already better than all these other orgs who I think are like putting out a really good product. Obviously, we're not in the place that traditional sports is yet. They're decades ahead of us. But it's just like a super, super big, bold claim to make. So
Kelby, by the way, Twitch chat thinks you are. They're asking me to shut you down because of how aggressive they feel you are.
That's
No, I think it's a fair point, right?
Yeah,
I think you're a little bit coupling like my describing our operations and my describing like the people we have on staff, right? Like like the claim I made before is like we have one of the smartest staffs in esports, right? I don't think that means we're the most like seasoned esports like organization, right? I obviously like admire like what TL and C9 and like what TSM have done, right? And like I'm not here to throw stones at them. I'm here to say that like, we have a very bright group of people. Some of us have a lot of endemic esports experience, some of us less, but like we're the org that's gonna like figure it out. Like 100%.
okay, and
Right.
and we
And, like,
will see.
Yeah, we will.
For
But, like,
context for
I
everyone
don't think I was
watching.
making the claim that like
For context on everyone watching,
we do
I
it-
think here's
Go ahead.
here's what I and Kelby, feel free, because it obviously I think a lot of people are wondering why it seems like you're being a dick. But Kelby, I think, has through his time at CLG and then later at AG, felt as though he's weathered what it's like to run a team. And I recall specifically, because we're both friends with Nick, who ran CLG, and then Hunter, who currently runs GG, that both folks felt very confidently that they were going to do a great job and everything was going to be perfect, and then ran into just crazy complications that occur with running a team. And I suspect that Kelby is just like everybody walks in onto a team super confident and then realizes it's way harder and way more complicated than it is. And I assume that is what is motivating or driving a lot of this line of questioning. Am I incorrect, Kelby?
No, you're absolutely right. And so people know as well, like Phil, who, was like running EG prior to the acquisition, is like a very, very near and dear friend of mine. We
He
still
still
talk
runs. He
a
still
lot
runs
to this day.
He's the CGO
Yeah.
over there, I think.
Yeah. And I love EG to death. This is like, it's just like, I feel like such a wide sweeping claim. Yeah, you summarized it well, Travis.
Hey,
Yes.
Travis, I made this sign, but I actually don't know if it's the best example. What would you say is the pinnacle of awkward conversations that happened on Hotline League? Was it Monty getting mad at you after the show? Or
Jacob
was
Wolf
it
calling
Jacob
in on Hunter?
Wolf?
This is definitely Jacob Wolf
That's
calling
what
in on Hunter in terms of level
But
of
that's
awkwardness.
you would call that peak
I would say it's
awkwardness,
peak
right?
awkwardness, yeah.
Okay, good. I agreed. So I made that sign. I gave this 7 out of 10 Jacob Wolf.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
7 out of 10, Kelby.
Thanks, Kelby. We're gonna. I think the.
Do you still want another
I think
caller,
we're gonna take
Travis, or is
Kelby's
that good?
administrator access away from this Discord server after this interruption.
Do
By
you
the way,
still want
Greg,
another
I also
caller,
want you to
Travis,
know
or
that
was
you work very close to where, not to dox anybody, but you work very close to where Kelby works. So if you want, I can show you where you can egg his offices.
You can give him his schedule.
No, I mean, I
his
think the
schedule.
questions were very fair. I think, like, I don't know if I didn't want to come across as saying it's like, I think we have the best operation in LCS. Like, we're sure as hell learning, right? My claim was that, like, the people we have on board are the smartest, just to clear that up.
Kelby, are you sated? Is your hunger resolved?
I think Kelby's in a holding pattern.
I think I can't say anything more because it'll just come off as me attacking. I wasn't sated at all. I think that it's all hyperbole and like we will see in the results, but there's nothing definitively that Greg presented from an evidence standpoint that makes me say, oh, I do think that they have one of the smartest orgs in the business. Like you're just hitting all the generic.
What kind of evidence are you looking for? Like, do you want
something that because I wouldn't have heard it up to this point, right? Like I'm probably in the same mind share as like the rest of the team owners, where like I think that like what a lot of those guys are doing is the best in the business to this point. The people who are on top right now, I think, are doing the best job running esports org. So I wouldn't need to heard something different from you than what I'd heard before, right? Like if you have a staff that you think is smarter than everybody else, well, what are other people not thinking of? Because
Would my
as
IQ
Travis
test
said,
would
like,
my IQ test idea help?
Is that a question to me or a question to Kobe?
I guess to Kelby.
I mean, yeah, because I've run orgs for a really long time, and I'm like really good friends with a lot of the owners, and I talk to them about all this stuff all the time. So I'm just like, damn, coming in and he knows more than everybody else.
I want to give a shout.
All right.
I want to give a shout out to Phil, who's going to be in the most awkward position ever as he watches the VOD for this video, and is like, "Well, shit. Now I got to figure out how to talk to Kelby and Greg and everybody about this." And you know what? I can relate. Anyway, thanks so much, Kelby. Anything you want to shout out at the end of this call?
Greg, what are your thoughts on the Chainsmokers?
I don't have an opinion. That's your thing. It's not mine, for sure.
That was your chance. He threw you a lifeline, Greg.
Yeah, that was the olive branch, Greg. You just lie to me and be like, they're great. And then I would have been like, damn, this guy is really smart.
I mean, I have a couple of
I don't know any of the other guys running teams that love the Chainsmokers.
What if he liked the Chainsmokers pop stuff and not their EDM stuff?
Ooh. I mean, I guess everybody has their own opinion. I'm not trying to get blocked again on Twitter right now, so.
Thank you so much, Kelby, for your call.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you later.
Later.
Greg, anything you want to say as we wrap up the show? Anything you want to shout out?
Well, shout out to our team. Like, I'm really excited for the start of the season for sure. I think like these guys, they've been like working super hard, and I'm really excited to see what they'll pull out. So, we'll see how we do. I'm feeling pretty confident week 1, but we'll see how we do.
Mark, what do you want to shout out?
I already shouted out Prater for being a homie. I'll probably do a power ranking at some point this week and put it on my Extinct YouTube channel. I don't know the last time I uploaded there, but I'll probably have to put it there. Other than
stick
that,
it on a non-Extinct YouTube channel.
I could,
and
but I won't.
Then that YouTube channel can give you all the revenue from it.
I don't really care about revenue. I care about integrity, and I don't want to put great content on a shit channel.
Okay.
Also, this hasn't been announced, but I think people will find out tomorrow anyways, so I'm going to announce it anyways, because I don't give a fuck. I'll be joining the Dive permanently this year. So I look forward to more of me on the
Do you
Dive.
know if we can do the show next Monday night?
Didn't I tell you?
No.
I did tell you.
Last night?
No, not last night, but I did tell you. I sent you a Facebook message.
Hang on, let me look. Let me look so I can find out if I can tell everyone if we can do the show next Monday night or if we have to move it to Tuesdays.
I think I said we should wait and see because the Monday games.
Well, yeah, but I have heard again another rumor that Riot is doing a show Monday nights.
I don't think I'm a part of that. If there is,
okay. Well, so the question is if we want to compete against them, and I'm actually kind of fine too because I don't know if what we're gonna do is gonna even if our viewership halves, if we can just fuck Riot a little bit for pitting a show against ours, I'm completely down with that. This is our fucking spot, and they can't even hype their start of their season, so they don't get my Hotline League time slot.
We should make our own hype for our debut Hotline League of the season. Let's go spend $100 on fireworks and blow them all up.
Thank you, Greg, for coming on the show.
To the desert
I apologize that my best friend had maybe too many monsters tonight and decided to hard flame you. It was incredibly ironic. Of all the teams that I would expect Kelby to be a dick to, it would not be EG.
It's all good.
Hopefully you had a good time, and this will prepare you for what you're going to get on Reddit, which will be way worse than this if things go wrong.
For sure. I mean, I think it is as I said, right? Like we can't prove it any other way than by actually doing it, right? So we'll see how this year goes.
Well, everyone, this has been... Oh, for me, I've got a ton of content coming out over the course of this week. We did the Gaffies, which is going to go up on YouTube tomorrow morning. I haven't been able to upload it yet because Kobe's been playing League all day, and he yells at me if the bandwidth gets shit. But I love you all, and Kelby, and EG all equally. This has been Hotline League, episode 106. Wait, I need to stop recording. Where is it? Here we go. Bye.